afraid we got to ask everybody to move into these seats. That's a tripper.
I'm okay with it. Let me just see what my battery is. Okay, hang on.
Maybe one of you here. Well, no, you're good. One, somebody here. Do we? Oh, I think we're good. I'm not sure he's right about that. Do you want somebody here?
Yes.
Yes?
Oh, this has to be here, exactly?
Not exactly. It's live, so. Hello, everybody.
Oh, hello. This is just right. A little bit over the shoulder.
Now he does want somebody. Please.
So, Mark, you need more tape there?
Probably.
So it's live now, right?
Yeah.
So I have the wire from the microphone, correct?
Yes.
And I also still have this in case.
Yes.
Where's your nephew? Is he coming?
So if we're live, I'm going to do a
Coming?
quick little like hello.
Good. I called the
You got audio?
Yeah.
So hey folks, we're live here. We're still setting up the meeting. We're doing some tech stuff, getting everybody in their seats, getting a couple calls coming in, so just hang in there. We'll start in about 5 minutes. Can you talk to the mic?
The green one? Turn them on.
So, okay, is this okay? Yeah? So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna be really rude and sit in the middle of the talking circle until the flow is gonna just be a setup for the national audience that I don't want anybody to doubt it for their sake. Okay, so we're gonna do a few Riki spill slides, background, and once we sort of set the stage for the science of health exposure, then we're going to have Sassafras come on. We're going to end with a video. Oh, sorry. Oh, we are? Hi, everybody. Oh, I don't think this is. It was a second ago. No, it's.
Can you give us this mic?
So of course you moved.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. We're still sort of prepping here. We're just going over the flow of the evening, which is going to be. Heck, I wasn't going to start like this. I was just talking to the audience here. So hang on, everybody here. All right, we're.
We needed another.
Okay, as long as we're live, everybody's in on sort of the prep here and what's going on. And what we are trying to do is get ready to go. We have a bit of a background plan just for the general flow, to sort of get everybody on the same page of health exposures, what happened during the BP disaster, it was 6 years ago, and why we are here now. So basically, we are 6 years on, and the BP oil spill is still claiming victims. We're 27 years on from the Exxon Valdez oil spill, and that is still claiming victims. And it turns out, scientists in other countries around the world, South Korea, Japan, France, England, Spain, and more, all have managed to find and document health effects to people as well as to the wildlife, except in the US. In the United States, dolphins get sick from oil exposures. I'm sure you've seen the news. But what about the people? So my name is Dr. Riki, and I'm a survivor of the Exxon Valdez oil spill, commercial fisherman formerly, and I have been tracking the health effects for now 27 years. Spent a year down here in the Gulf of Mexico after the BP disaster, met the other co-MCs here. So Kendra Arneson is one of the co-MCs, and we'll be introducing Kendra and her story in a sec. Nancy?
No, it's good.
No, she's not, okay. We'll be introducing people as they come in. So we are emceeing this event 6 years later, rising up from the spill, which is a town hall on community health and oil. So tonight's program, which is what I was explaining when I suddenly was told I was live, is that we are going to have a little bit of background, a couple of quick slide videos, a couple of quick talks with some scientists who have been following our story, your story, and then we are going to go with Sassafras Live and start the speak outs right after that. So here we are. Oh, here we are. Okay. Oh. Okay. So our first slide. Maybe somebody not look like we're on a fishing boat there. Brilliant. Okay. Our slides were kind of out to sea. Okay. So what we have is the Deepwater Horizon well blowout, which was 6 years ago today. And immediately there are two stories. This spill, this disaster ended 11 men's lives, husbands, fathers, sons, and immediately started two stories. The real story and the politically correct story, the story that most people heard in the news. The politically correct story here is what's showing. Remember when the day of the spill, the day after, there was nothing spilled? Remember that? No, it's not leaking at all. Everything's cool. And then gradually it comes out, 1,000 gallons a day. Would you believe that? And then it inched up, 5,000, 19,000, and almost 2 months in, we were hearing the numbers of 20, 25,000, 30,000. And finally, there comes an official flow rate technical group that says, well, actually, now that we see the clear video, we're talking 35 to 50,000 gallons a day. 2 months in, the public finally hears the truth. And finally, somewhere in here, we have an agreement, politically correct story or not, that this is how much oil actually spilled. 210,000 million gallons of oil. This is the largest maritime disaster in the United States. The killing, as we will discuss tonight, did not stop on April 20th, and it went on and on. This area that got oiled was about the size of the state of Missouri, 68,000 square miles. So that's what we're dealing with. But besides that, there was a second spill. The second spill was actually of corrective dispersant. It was intentional, and if it was an oil spill, it would have amounted to the 6th largest spill in the United States. That's how much oil-based industrial solvent was sprayed on the ocean surface, 1.7 or so million gallons, and another 770,000 gallons were released at the wellhead. So that's the official story. The official story also said, if everybody recalls, that it stopped. The corrective spraying stopped. I see a lot of heads nodding here. July 15th. Well, this photo was taken in August, and the people who took this photo actually got sprayed. And what we have here is spraying in the near shore, spraying within 3 miles of the coast, spraying in less than 10 meters, 30 feet of water, which none of the scientists condone. Why? We'll find out why. This stuff is toxic. So actually, we don't know the total amount of dispersant that was sprayed. So let's talk a little bit more about this dispersant. That's the official story, 1.8 or so million gallons. And that it was safe enough, all right? The NALCO safety data sheet, however, tells different stories for both of the 2 correxants that were sprayed. And if you actually look, this is a direct quote from the material safety data sheet where the environmental hazards warns, do not contaminate surface water, right? That's on the NALCO's own safety data sheet. This is what our federal government approved. Beyond that, there is a pre-authorization of dispersant use that the Coast Guard and EPA have agreed to in Region 4, which happened to be where this photo was taken in Mississippi. And again, we know that our story is that this stuff, corexit dispersants, were sprayed seaward, inland of the 3-mile buffer. So here we have the dispersant story. This stuff is kind of everywhere. Now here's yet another 2-story scenario where did the oil go? Well, the Gulf of Mexico Research Initiative just put out this little glossy brochure, and I'm sure this is what the scientists have all agreed to, and some of it was chemically dispersed, some of it evaporated in the air, blah, blah. But if you really look at this pie chart, you'll see that only 20% was recovered. And I will tell you that in every oil spill in the world, it's lucky if it breaks 2 figures, all right? So I think this 20% is very optimistic. Now, the oil that went into the air and was burned and went into the air, or dispersed and went into the water, it didn't go away, okay? It's still there. So where is it? Well, we're going to use here Mr. Ick to demonstrate how the oil and the dispersant basically become chemical hitchhikers. And they hitchhike with the water molecules. So here we're going to follow our Mr. Ick, sprayed on the ocean or spilled, and coming up from the depths. And it evaporates up into the air with the humidity and the heat in the Gulf. And as it comes up, it gets incorporated in the sea mist and comes ashore and hits all the beach equipment and umbrellas. It goes up into the clouds and condenses in the clouds. It comes ashore with the rain. And everybody down here knows how far that means. If there's a hurricane or a big storm, we're talking 300, 500 miles inland. And then the rain comes down, and with the oil and the dispersants in it, and flows either back to the ocean, contaminating the lakes and the rivers, or down into the groundwater and the aquifer. That's where the oil and dispersant went. But look at this, what's missing? People, animals, us, okay? So the problem is the oil didn't just go in the air. Once it went in the air, it goes into the bodies that are breathing the air, all right? So if you look at this picture, who's breathing right there? Well, obviously the one in the front isn't, okay? What we're looking at is a picture of a dead dolphin on the coastline, and people who are swimming right behind it, and a fishing fleet behind that. So oil chemical pollutants get into a body by people or wildlife inhaling, or drinking it in, or coming across the gills, or eating, or skin contact. So what happened? I mean, there are 6 million people in the Gulf if you add up, and very conservatively, the census data from 2010. And what we're talking about here is there were volatile organic
solvent blood profile work done by people where their blood was sampled. And of all the ones that I saw, we're talking that the people in the Gulf had 95 to 100 percentile. They were 95 to 100 percentile more oil in their blood than all the other Americans. So it went straight out of the Gulf Stream and into people's blood, this oil and this dispersant, and into the dolphins. So here we have reports coming out now, and they've been pretty consistently coming out by National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, showing that the baby dolphins, the pregnant dolphins, there's trouble. The female dolphins are having trouble carrying their babies to full term. There's having huge, huge spikes in the dolphin die-off. There's adrenal gland damage. There's severe lung lesions. Dolphins are mammals. We're mammals. We're breathing the same air. So what we're going to have is hopefully some scientists here in just a second to talk a little bit more about this, and then we're going to cue up a video. And we're about to hear from Dr. Susan Shaw. Dr. Susan Shaw is a marine toxicologist and a public health expert. She is a member of the Department of Interior Strategic Sciences Working Group, and that group was charged with assessing the consequences of the BP disaster. Dr. Susan Shaw also animately opposes the federal government's current should be banned from spraying on oil spills and making oil spills a chemical spill. Okay, hang on, we should have Susan here in a second.
Are you with us, Susan? Hello?
I'm right here, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Emily, tell her to go ahead.
Go ahead, Susan.
Tell her you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Susan Shaw. I'm a marine toxicologist and a public health doctor. I was deeply involved in the Gulf oil spill. A month after the spill, I dove in the oil slick to get a look at what was happening with the corrected dispersants in the water column. And then I was appointed to the Department of Interior's Strategic Sciences Working Group of 14 people who were charged with assessing the consequences of the spill. And now we're 6 years beyond the spill, but the story is by far from over. And my thoughts about this now are, to me, the BP oil spill was a chemical experiment that should never have happened. Spraying and injecting the toxic corrected dispersant to hide the oil, I believe, was not only unjustified, but it was a travesty of environmental justice, human rights, and as we predicted in 2010, doing that, releasing all the 2 billion gallons of dispersant onto 200 billion gallons of oil has made thousands of people very, very sick. I've interviewed many of these people several times on returning to the Gulf, and some of the interviews were on Animal Planet, the film called Black Tide, Voices of the Gulf. Talking to the victims that were exposed to the corrected spray and the oil was just absolutely devastating for me personally, and it affected my whole career. What we have is now we're looking at whole communities that have lost all hope of having a normal, productive life. They're overwhelmed with illness, called the Gulf Syndrome, which involves a lot of neurological effects, all kinds of damage to organ systems, and cancer. And it's a very grim way to live. It's also a grim way to die early in your life. We also have a medical community that's unable to connect the illness with the chemical exposure, which is a real problem because people who are affected, like people who are involved with chemical exposure elsewhere, are isolated. They're alone with their illness, their inability to work anymore, their children are sick, and many of these people are in their 30s and 40s. This is what I think of as environmental injustice to the nth degree. On top of the exposure, which people really didn't know, had no idea was a problem for them. They didn't even know they were being exposed, but people were lied to. They were told that Corexit was as safe as Dawn dishwashing liquid. And I read the material safety data sheets for Corexit, and I can tell you if you're washing your hands in Corexit for about a day or so, you will no longer have skin on your hands. And but this DP oil spill underlines the real fact here that our government does not protect Americans from toxic exposure. The system is geared to protect the companies and the profits. So now we all know this. We have seen this in many other cases. We've seen it where DuPont and other companies are dumping the Teflon chemicals into water and poisoning people's drinking water. But what are we doing about it? I do believe that it's important to have communities now reaching out to each other, because when people are isolated and alone, they are not empowered, but as communities, they certainly can be empowered, and we see many examples of that. I just want to put in a word now, because I'm a marine pollution specialist working with marine mammals. I want to talk about the dolphins and what happened to them, which I consider a major tragedy. The dolphins don't know about oil spills and, Corexit, and how we are dealing with hiding the oil and all that. The evidence has come in, very strong evidence showing now that the bottlenose dolphins in the Gulf were decimated by this toxic cocktail of Corexit and oil. And we actually predicted this on the Strategic Sciences Working Group. We said, I wrote about how looking at the way the dolphins surface to breathe through the air hole, there's no way to escape the plumes of the mixture of Corexit and oil in the water column. So what's happened over these years, from science we know that a record number of baby dolphins died both in utero or just at birth from severe infections, from pneumonia, from fetal stress. They just never made it. And the mothers are reproductively impaired, meaning they are not hearing the baby to term, not able to. And also looking at the whole population down there, scientists have found that 50% or more of the population in bottlenose dolphins are so sick from infections and what have you, adrenal impairment and so forth, hormone disruption, that they are not predicted to be able to survive, let alone reproduce. So we have a real tragic outcome that I don't believe is over yet. We're going to hear about, as time goes on, we'll know more about these long-term effects, including cancer and very, very severe effects on the wildlife in the Gulf. This is despite all the DC ads telling us that the Gulf comes back and come on down and eat the shrimp and all those like I'm happy ads. But I think the underlying question here is, why are we as a society poisoning ourselves and our oceans with toxic chemicals? Why on earth would we allow BP to pour millions of gallons of toxic chemicals on top of a toxic oil spill? I think we're at a point in time, we're at the edge where we are going to see more extinctions, particularly of top predators, and more illness among communities of human beings that never, ever thought this would happen to them. So,
Okay, Susan, thank you very much.
My concluding statement is this needs to stop now. We need to take actions. We need to organize and mobilize communities to stop further pollution of not only the water, but it's all about us. And I also believe that it's not just happening in the Gulf, it's happening elsewhere. So that's my statement. I'm a scientist, and I hope that I will be able to drive change in this area, because we need to make something happen. We need to learn from this experience and move forward as a society.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shaw. Thank you very much for taking your time to join us tonight here at this live town hall. Okay, so what we're going to do is have a quick video, then we're going to do Sassafras, then we're going to call Dr. Carl Safina. So this is the dolphin story that...
We saw something at one point from the boat. It looked like it was some a sport bag. So we went, got a little bit closer, and we realized there was a mama dolphin pushing her newly born baby dolphin along and pushing it. She was trying to revive us. This mommy dolphin was exhausted.
I think we're running into the slow internet speed. So basically, there was only about 30 more seconds of this, and it shows the mother dolphin just trying to revive her baby dolphin for about 2 minutes. So maybe we'll see if Sassafras is ready to play us a little set here before they take off.
There was just this sadness. As she's pushing it, the dolphin is turning over. You see a belly.
A belly button. Okay, so that's all right. So we're going to cut that. Are you? Sassafras is on. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, everybody. This is Sassafras, and Joe, you want to take it and then pass the mic to Karen and just introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Joe Billups. I live in Lillian, Alabama. I grew up on the Gulf of Mexico, and we have a duo called Sassafras, and this is the other half right here.
I'm Karen Harwell. I live on the Gulf Coast as well, in Wheatland, Mississippi.
No, they stomp and romp. They don't sit. They're going to have
saw rocket. Am I in your way?
No, he wanted us by you, that's why.
Okay. Okay.
We're not, okay. We're gonna start with Kendra's fight song. Here she is, 2, 3, 4.
We're not the U.S. BP. We don't answer to an oil company. Listen up. We are the people. We are your power. We voted you in. Stand up in this hour, 'cause we're not the U.S. BP. We don't answer to an oil company. No, we're not the U.S. BP. Just clean up your mess and let us be. We're not the U.S. BP. We don't answer to an oil company. No, we're not the U.S. BP. Just clean up your mess and let us be. Hey, listen up, you politicians. Remember, BP is an act of sedition. Yeah, we are the people. We are your power. We voted you in. Stand up in this hour, 'cause we're not the U.S. BP. We don't answer to an oil company. No, we're not the U.S. BP. Just clean up your mess and let us be. 'Cause we're not the U.S. BP. No, we're not the U.S. BP. No, we're not the U.S. BP. We don't answer to an oil company.
Where's the government? Here's the rise. This is a song about all the rising water in Houston right now, and it seems like everywhere you look. It's the song's called Rise.
Well, I went down to the station, heard the people saying, water is coming, it's gonna be better run, you better fly, you better run, you better hold your head up high. Water comes around, this sends us for higher ground. It's gonna rise up in the swamp. It's gonna rise. It's gonna rise right up in the street. It's gonna rise right up to the top of the cypress tree. You better find yourself a tall, tall tree. You better find yourself a boat. You better find yourself some wings. Water has a way of just taking everything. Take your life, Lord. Take your house. Well, it's all over the news. You know it's all over. And if you listen, well, you'll hear them saying about rivers they rising. You better get out of the way. It's gonna rise.
that we've been asking since the oil spill, and this song's called "Where's the Government?" From the dirty, dirty coal mines to Alberta tar sands, everything that's in between that isn't fit for man. They're fracking in Ohio all the way to Tottertown. Five corns and cold is gonna bring you down. So where's the government? We're the people. We just can't go home. Hey, where's the government? 'Cause we're the people. Your greed has taken our home. Well, from the melting Arctic glaciers to the islands of Maldives, polluters steal the future like pirates and thieves. The water keeps on rising like the carbon in the air, bringing devastation to people everywhere. Hey, where's the government? We're the people. We just can't go home. Hey, where's the government? We're the people. Greed has taken our home.
Hey, can you grab the mic for a second? Tell us why you came here to sing.
We came here to sing because this isn't over. Because we heard Riki come and speak to us initially, and she told us what to expect. And here we are 6 years later, and we still haven't seen the end of it. So this isn't finished, so we're not finished. That's why we're here, to represent the people of Houghton, Alabama. Thank you. Thank you for this, Riki.
So what we've got here is we've got Kendra Arneson and I saying goodbye to Sassafras. They're taking off for another engagement. This is the 6th memorial of the BP oil disaster. We do not call this an anniversary. We do not call it an anniversary in Alaska either. And none of us who have been through one of these things call this an anniversary. All right, so I believe we have Carl Safina on right now. Thank you for joining us, Carl. Since you're on live right now, I'll let you introduce yourself. All right, go ahead.
Hi, I think I just got introduced. Can anybody hear me?
You didn't get introduced. Introduce yourself. I thought you could roll with that.
Okay, well, I'm having a very hard time hearing anybody, so I'm assuming you can hear me. And this is Carl Safina. I wrote the book A Sea in Flames about the blowout. I was in various parts of the Gulf about half a dozen times during the summer of 2010. And I had impressions from different places. And impressions of what was going on with the wildlife, the water, the people, the policy, all those kinds of things. And they are all in that book. The book attempts to show the sort of the emotional topography of the summer. It does not try to show all the facts, because I think that the facts are hard to know. But one thing that we did think at the time was that there were dolphins washing up dead, and there were different possible reasons for why that was happening. One is that dolphins simply die from time to time. The other is that there were a couple of unusually cold winters that might have increased the mortality. This is something that has been seen before, that when the water is unusually cold, there is a little bit of an elevation in the mortality of newly born dolphins. But what most of us kind of suspected at the time was that all of that oil and all of the dispersants probably had something to do with the fact that dolphins were dying at higher rates. And I was wondering about the quality of the information, and I remember that Jane Luchenko, who at the time was the head of science for NOAA, seemed pretty convinced herself that the dying dolphins were dying because of the toxicity from the oil. And now we seem to have confirmation of that. And I think that just shows that the Gulf did not get clean, that the Gulf did not recover, although there are places in the Gulf. The Gulf is a big place. There are places in the Gulf that were much worse. There are places in the Gulf that got much better. But I think that what this shows is that the toxicity from the oil was not trivial, and it was killing animals. And of course, if it's killing dolphins, those are the things that we can see because they wash up dead. It probably was killing a lot of other things that we couldn't see. Most times fish die in the ocean, they just sink. They don't wash up or wash ashore. So I think I'm terrible for all time because I wanted to be a little more hopeful, and I also needed to wait and see what the information seemed to show. But what it seems to show is that there is lingering toxicity that is lethal to at least these mammals that are living there and dying there. So because I'm not sure you can hear me, and because I can't hear you very well, I'm going to just stop right there and see if there's any response to that in any way.
Yes, respond.
Okay, great. I got that.
Does Carl have anything more to add? That was wonderful. Does he?
Yeah, I think that, as I said, the situation was really quite a mixed one, even at the time in 2010. There were parts of Louisiana that were just completely devastated, and places where thick oil remained in Barataria Bay, and Grand Isle was such a horrendous mess. And there were places much further east on the west side of Florida that were not so bad. And even when it was at its worst, what was remarkable to me was that there were egrets, these white birds in the back marshes that showed no oil. They were not going out to the open coast. They were not getting oiled. And I think that one thing to try to keep in mind when we talk about the whole situation is that there wasn't just one situation. The situation was on a long continuum from really, really terrible in some places with effects that were likely to recover sooner. And then there are a lot of things that we don't know. A lot of the science was so tied up in the law, in the lawsuits for all these years that we are not getting the information that has been developed because it's all sequestered. And strictly biologically, there are some things that we won't know for some time. I wrote a book about sea turtles, and I'm particularly interested in them. And sea turtles live a very long time before they're old enough to breathe. So the rate of mortality is something that people are left guessing at. We won't know for quite a long time about them. We have to see in another, maybe as long as another decade, whether there's a dip in the number of turtles that return to that. So this is a very long-running event with long tails on it. And I think it's probably safe to say that there are some aspects of it where the recovery is going to happen faster or probably have recovered, and other aspects where there's going to be lingering problems for quite some time.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, and yes, thank you, Carl. Dr. Safina, thank you very much. We're kind of weird. All right, so I just want to remind everybody that with the Exxon Valdez oil spill, we had the complete fisheries collapse 4 years after the spill because the young of the year, basically herring and pink salmon, died, but didn't survive the oiling 4 years earlier. And we still have no herring fishery in Prince William Sound 27 years later. All right, so we're going to move now to this slide about this question about, is the seafood safe? And what I always think when I hear that is, what did the dolphins eat, okay? And then the next question is the dispersant safe? So again, there are two stories to this. And one story is the government story, the politically correct story, that EPA and a lot of us heard during the BP disaster when I was joined everybody in these communities for a year. And of course, EPA was promoting that, oh, some of the ingredients in dispersant are in children's ibuprofen and Pond's skin creams, Klondike ice cream bars, Orajel training toothpaste for children, skin repair, Lubriderm skin repair, Lysol bathroom cleaner. Come on, they're implying here that this is going to be okay. And if you really look up the ingredients of corrective dispersants that were used in the Gulf, you will see that they in fact are they're human health hazards, all right? They are solvents, industrial solvents that disrupt hormones. They're endocrine disruptors. They're teratogens, which is to say they disturb the growth and development of babies in the womb, like what we've been hearing with the dolphins. They're neurotoxins, carcinogens, mutagens. They cause hemolysis. They break apart red blood cells and kill the cells. And they're basically systemic poisons. Really? Well, here is Lori Bosarge's story. Maybe Lori could just come up here. She is unable to speak tonight because of this story. She's had a relapse of her symptoms of when she was sprayed with Corexit dispersant 9527. Lori, why don't you just come on over here for a sec? I'll just stand up. Basically, in August 2000, this is Lori Bosarge. Thank you. Lori is going to co-MC, and we're going to go ahead and speak out. We'll have our other MCs up here. But since she's unable to speak, that sort of curtailed that plan. So Lori...
Tell me why she's unable to speak.
The government told everyone that dispersants were no longer being used after July 15th. Lori went down to the boat dock where the public ramp and discovered there were dispersant totes right there, and dispersant was being actively loaded on shallow boats and taken and being sprayed in the near shore. When Lori was there, she was directly sprayed with Corexit 9527. There are some nasty pictures showing on the screen of skin rashes all over her body, but basically those rashes, within 2 hours of exposure, her skin broke out in blisters, a severe rash, and an intense chemical burn. Her body swelled, she almost died, she went to the hospital, they quarantined her, they really never told her what was going on. She figured it out. And she has been severely ill ever since. And Lori Bosarge is one of the people who had the Metametrix volatile organic compound whole blood profile for solvents done, and she was one of the ones who was off the chart with oil in her body. And I'm sorry you're not able to speak tonight, but thank you for being here with us. And this cultural response center is largely because of Lori and the community here in Coden. Thank you, Lori.
Hang on for a second.
Oh, okay, and Lori actually went home and got all the nutritional supplements and other things she is taking to try to stabilize her self. And this is what it looks like.
I was not on any supplements or prescription drugs before I was sprayed by the Corexit. And this is what I'm on. This is what I've been taking for the past 6 years. And I'm on all supplements, natural supplements. And if it wasn't for the holistic treatments, I would not be here. And by the grace of God.
And I take it that you weren't taking any of this before?
No, never.
And I also take it, who's paying for all this?
I am having to pay for all of it because even with me having insurance does not cover any of the holistic supplements. And I can show you this one. I'm still on these right here. I have to get them about once every 2 months. And the bill runs about $250, and some other ones as well. But
I'd like to say that Lori is not alone, and my experience from the Exxon Valdez oil spill, of course, of how they want to be treated. Some of the ones who are covered in one of the books that I wrote, Sound Truth and Corporate Myths, where they were taken, the healthcare providers actually try to detox the people and get these chemicals out of their body. I personally know two who are thriving and have gotten their lives back again. Not the same, but it's stabilized. And some of the people who chose the Western medical route are no longer with us. So they're
I will say after I was in the hospital for 8 days and then was home and having my leg treated during that time, that year I just popped up like a tick. When I went into the hospital, they treated me, they got me stabilized, and they sent me home. 6 weeks later, my leg was still rotting, my left calf. I knew then that if I didn't do something, that either I was going to lose my leg or I was going to lose my life. And so my family has a doctor 500 miles away that I go to. And so it's 1,000 miles for me to go to this doctor. I go to him at least 4 to 5 times a year and get treatments and actually he's the one that has kept me alive, because the doctors that were giving me treatments here were not working. I was staying sick.
And I think I'll add to that what we have here is there is a special and environmental health. It's like if you go to your general practice doctor and you say, doctor, it hurts here, something's wrong here. He's going to refer you, or she is going to refer you to a specialist, okay? Well, that's what needed to happen with these oil chemical exposures. People needed to be referred to specialists, and that just didn't happen down here. And it's still not happening. And this is one of the reasons that the ALERT project, I direct the ALERT project. It's a project of Earth Island Institute, but we have just today posted toxic trespass. And you can download that manual. The learning guide will be up shortly, and the learning guide gives people what they need to look for in a healthcare professional in terms of specialty care if you think you have been chemically poisoned, and what kind of information you need to gather to take to your health care provider who's a specialty, has a specialty training to be able to best diagnose and treat you. This is what I have not been seeing in the Gulf. So what toxic trespass is doing, and Emily Harris will come up in a bit and share, she's one of the speak out people. We've put together this education and information for people to find type of care that we think would best suit your needs right now. Getting a little bit ahead of the story, but I couldn't help it because this is a combination of what I've seen down here is doctors either not knowing or not treating. And we have discovered, which we'll be talking about a little bit later, is that there was another compounding problem, which is that when doctors diagnose you, there's a code, there's an international classification of disease system. It's a coding system. So if you're the doctor here and you're telling me what's wrong, I'm looking for codes to put the information in. ICD codes, International Classification of Diseases. And ICD code 9 did not recognize chemical illnesses. It's 30 years old. And it was replaced by ICD 10, but only in October of 2015, which really didn't do a code for you. So you're invisible. You're invisible. That's part of what happened. And that's part of the reason I'm here. And Emily is here because we're going to speak out here fairly soon. But the idea is that this is going on all the time, oil spills. It leaves a trail of sick people, and it has got to stop. There's no reason for this to continue. So. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Sorry.
What happens when I go away from the Gulf Coast for a while, like miles away, like 100 miles away, and stay gone for a week or so, I come back and within 2 to 3 days, I have some kind of setback in my health. This time I came back and I was just as healthy as can be last Tuesday. I woke up and I couldn't breathe and my windpipe was swelled up and I had pneumonia. Now I was fine the day before. I didn't even have a cold. So this is something in the environment. And so if y'all can recognize that too, if you go away and you've been affected by this and then you come back and you notice the sinus or headaches or eyes tearing, anything like that, there's all kinds of symptoms. Even it could be your heart just palpitating. That for no apparent reason. That is the chemicals down here in this area that have never, ever been cleaned up. They've never decontaminated bilobacteria or codeine, ever. So I could take any of you right now and show you where it's at. So, okay. And I don't usually sound like this, but every time and when I'm talking now, I sound like I am hoarse all the time. When I left for that week, it was as clear as the bell. All of it went away.
Stand by. So what I want to add to what Lori just said is that this is called multiple chemical sensitivity. It's called a number of things. But it's basically your body recognizing these chemicals. The body recognizes them as toxins the first time, and we're going to talk about some early symptoms here. And then when you go away, you start to detox just with every breath out, with sweating, with anything. And when you come back and your body is exposed to these chemicals again, your body goes into hypersensitivity mode to warn you that you're back in danger again. So it's called a lot of things. But
I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I couldn't breathe.
yeah. So, all right, so thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Laura.
Yeah. Okay, so I had a couple other slides, just a couple others to show you how a body's, if you think of a body as a rain barrel, and these chemicals are coming at you, drip, 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 your body slowly fills up over time. And when you have a big toxic exposure like what we just had with the BP disaster, your rain barrel overflows and you become sick. And that's what we're talking about here. And the symptoms are some of the ones Lori mentioned with the headaches and the dizziness and the nausea and the cold and flu-like symptoms, respiratory symptoms, central nervous system symptoms, skin problems, and blood problems, all right? All right, so I think, do we have, where is Ms. Tricia? Are we anywhere, is youth chief, do we have anybody?
Yes, we have people here that are affected. Yeah.
I know we do. I was kind of hoping to shut this thing down.
Okay.
So here, okay.
I will tell you that by finding the ICD codes. Hey, come on.
Oh, wait, now let's introduce, okay, so come on
Is
up.
this Lubin?
And, what I'm saying is, and we're going to bring in now Tricia Springstead.
Thank you. My name is Tricia Springstead. I've been a registered nurse for going on 40 years. I've worked in all areas of healthcare. We did find ICD codes. Those ICD codes are getting us specialists. We are, I just gave my deposition to Shannon Devine at the Government Accountability Project. We shared the codes with her. She is now in the process. We will have an FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, on who generated those codes. I'm assuming it's the government that generated those codes that went out there. So we are getting specialists. If they see a code, then they're going to say, wow, maybe I need to look into this. So it's really important that you have those codes, and we will get them to you. Secondly, we have a whole group of people up and down this Gulf that are chemically toxic. I know it. I'm seeing it every day. And I've been up and down this coast since November. And every time I go into a community, it doesn't matter. This community was very hard hit. I have communities in Florida that were up in the, like just right up in the, up above Cedar Key, Apalachicola, that were heavily impacted. I can go into a community now, up and down this Gulf, and get people to come out and talk. We have questionnaires that we're now working on that our government should have provided to people so that we can get it in. I figured out very early on, people had no internet access. And if we didn't get into these communities and get in and approach you and stand up for you and help you fill out this paperwork, we would have never gotten anywhere or gotten the number of people that I'm getting. I have a stack this big, this tall right now, of forms that people have had help filling out. And it also is recognizing family members who have died. It's pretty much about 20 to 25% of what I'm seeing, family members are dead, or people are dead. So I'm filling out forms for dead people. And this is so important that we do this in every single community up and down this Gulf, because if we don't, then we can't prove harm. And we need to prove this, and it has to be traceable and identifiable. And I want to thank you all for filling out forms, the ones that have. Those of you that have not, I will have copies of those. You need your address, we will get them to you. I will keep coming back. That's what I do. And I'm hoping to get the medical community on board. And thank you, Riki. You got me into this mess. But thank you, Riki. I mean, had it not been for Riki coming down here in the early stages of what was going on, I would have never, ever imagined that this could have been done to my own.
All right, so thank you, Tricia. We're going to get another speak out person up here pretty quickly. and the dispersants. This has gone down completely differently than Exxon Valdez. We didn't use this many dispersants with Exxon Valdez. So the oil itself is now recognized as all those nasty horribles that I had up there. It's an endocrine disruptor. It kills babies in the womb. It causes skin problems. It causes neurological problems. Oil causes cancers too. Oil causes cancers too. And diseases and illnesses in the people who are exposed and their offspring. Oil is actually a hazardous substance, but not by law. The problem is when you combine it with dispersant. Dispersant is a solvent, and it pulls the oil on your lungs and into your blood. Solvents can be dispersants, diluents used in tar sands, dispersants to break up the oil, or the diluents to thin the tar sands oil, or the fracking fluids to extract the oil from the rocks, are the same properties that pull the oil across skin barriers into our organs. We're going to have another speak out. Come on up.
Coming through that chair.
I'm Joseph Brown. Some of y'all may have seen me on YouTube.
Move the camera in the chair,
I was
please. Camera in the chair.
one of the very first ones to come in, let everybody know what was happening to me. After I got out of the VA hospital, I was able to go to it was a Fit My Knees meeting. And the reason I was invited to that meeting because Congress was there. And I got to talk to Congress, and they were stating that they didn't know that this type of poison was out there and it was affecting the people in the way that it was doing. And I stayed in a wheelchair for 2.5 years, and I've been fighting it every day. And it's an up and down. You'll be affected by smell. You can be anywhere at any time and just feel so deathly sick that you don't know if you're going to make it back to your house. It's something that you can't control. With my boots, I had water to get into my boots, and it ate into my legs, and it got into my blood system. After it got into my blood system, I started getting real sick, and I didn't know I was bringing the chemicals home with me. It was on my clothes. So my wife over here, she got exposed to it. Had blisters on her palms of her hands. I've got scars from where the water had splashed me. And all these scars, if I take antibiotics, they start bleeding. And I get deathly sick, you know. I have first stage chronic kidney disease now. My heart is enlarged to 19 inches, so I have to be careful with what I do. I can no longer work. I've had weaknesses with my muscles and stuff, and I have a lot of problems with it. Feels like gnats are biting me all the time. And my legs hurt. It feels like the muscles are sliding up down on bones and just inflamed all the time. And my guts have been paralyzed, and I have a lot of problems with them. And in order to use the restroom and stuff, I have to take a lot of medications. But she was exposed from washing my clothes, and it got into her blood system. Well, it triggered an anticoagulant blood disorder. It caused her blood to clot. Well, both of her lungs filled up with blood clots. She died in the bathroom in 2011, wasn't it? 2010. Fell and hit the tub in the bathroom while I was on the breathing machine in my room, and it knocked out enough blood clots out of her lungs that she came back. And when she came to, she was able to get me up, and I got her to the hospital, and they told us, yes, she had expired at home.
They said I was in critical condition.
And she was in critical condition. This is my wife. This is Jane.
I dropped. Tell me what's wrong. I finally within 2 weeks, 2 healthy people died. He stopped breathing 3 times. He was in the hospital 2 weeks. I brought him home the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. That Friday, I was in ICU, and I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, filled with blood clots everywhere. And here's where we are now. this leg gets this big, and it's like, sometimes I walk like, I don't know, I do this, he tries to straighten them, they go right back. I've done nerve conduction tests. When I talk, I try to bunch my words together, and I'm creating new words. Like I'm trying to say things so fast and together. It's like you can't control it. It's hard.
At the first of this, he helped me a lot, you know, and I went to Dr. Ray in Dallas. I know you know Dr. Ray, and I've met you before. And there's chemical specialists out there, but they're specialized in the field of the oil chemical. It's banned from all the countries in the world except for here. So one of your great politicians or somebody up there had a buddy, had a bunch of it, and wanted to get rid of it. And what's the best way to get rid of something like that is to disperse it, get rid of it. So I know that there's a lot of y'all out there who got a lot of questions, I'm sure, and you feel free to come and talk to me and Jamie.
Like right now, I'm cold all the time. My hands right now are freezing cold. My toes, my feet are always cold. And it's just different feelings throughout your body. It's like
Sweating, it feels like ice is on my head.
I don't want you to leave. I want to back up what you're saying, okay?
Right.
Because one of the key characteristic symptoms of oil chemical exposures is central nervous system damage. And what that manifests as is in acute symptoms, common headache. Oh, you're not gonna think that's bad, but in the summer of 2010, I heard an awful lot of people with headaches, really bad headaches. And I heard people with tingling appendages, tingling, and when they're tingling, they're numb, and they start dropping things. Oh yeah. So the medical community has written papers. I had one medical doctor call me from Florida and say, what can I do to help? This is in 2010. I could write another. Exposures are going to cause these symptoms. Respiratory problem. No, that's okay. Neurotoxin. Remember that was in the list of the problem, because when the federal government comes in and does their air quality exposures and says, oh, it's okay. And people are getting sick below those standards, okay? The standards are what's not. And as far as the doctors not, the doctors.
Yeah, pretty much. So I can completely relate to what the Browns have been. Myself, my two kids, we were pretty healthy folks, you know. I mean, very rarely did we catch a cold or a flu or anything like that. And we went from a picture of as close as you can get to perfect health to just ups and downs. Just like the Browns were saying, 1 minute you're fine, and maybe you might run into something or go out somewhere, and next thing you know, you're just sick all over again. Before the oil spill, one thing I always loved about my husband, and this is one of the things that Mrs. Brown just said that really relates with me. One of the things I loved about my husband is he was always so warm. His bodies were cold. Even when we're sleeping at night. For me, early on, for the first time, he was prior BP to this day has not as commercial fisher people, total of $2.3 billion. You've got that amount of money that come off the top, and then they come out with the first round of payments on the economic system, and hopefully you got your first round of payments. And we're going to investigate you for fraudulent claims category. Currently, according to our attorney, I spoke to him yesterday, there's about 1,500 or so commercial fishermen out of the state of Louisiana that are still currently being investigated for fraud, or they've already been given denials for fraud. And that's went back to what's called the FWA department, the Fraud, Waste Accounting Department within Juneau's office. So I just want to get this out there real quick. I know I'm kind of bouncing around to different subjects. I apologize about that, but I have a habit of talking in circles. Anyway, as of yesterday, according to our attorney, they finished out the second round of payments to commercial fishermen across the coast, other than the ones that were denied. Well, the 1,500 denials were supposed to go straight to the FWA department. So you got all of Juneau's office working on all of these cases, paying out the second round. Our appeal, I was accused of committing fraud. Our appeal has been on the FWA's desk since July 26th of last year. We still haven't heard anything from them. Just this morning, I had to put my light bill on my credit card. I've never ever had to do that. I'm having to put grocery well for our kids, and now I can't go get things like my daughter's 8th grade class ring. That's still on hold. It's almost the end of the year. She needs a dress. I can't just go buy that right now. Normally, I would have been able to do that. Crushed. And even if the day, and it's a big if the day ever comes that BP pays us for our economic claim, it's a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. Our fisheries still haven't recovered. So it may fix things right this second, but it's not gonna, I mean, my husband's been a commercial fisherman since he was a kid. I've been in the commercial fishing industry. Are there any other I don't think so. I don't wanna go do anything different. I mean, that's what we were raised. It made for a real good headline for BP to put out that they had a medical claims process. I remember people coming up to me right after that came out and saying, man, Kendra, you guys don't see doctors. They're gonna set up clinics. You guys are gonna get the help. We're gonna get the help because you were so vocal. Thanks for your part in this. 6 years later, I live in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana. I'm on one of the closest landmasses for the medical impacts. But you know what we do have? We have an office in Port Sulphur in our services paid for by British Petroleum. Because we've all lost our mind. We're all slap nuts. Everybody on the Gulf Coast has done went slap crazy. Well, come to find out, guess what? Because of the chemical exposure, it does mess with you psychologically. You know, I thought to myself, well, I guess about a year ago, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to get some mental health help. Because I'm losing everything I have. My family's sick. I'm going to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 funerals every month that passes by. I'm at someone's funeral, and go an hour and a half the other way to go to another friend of mine's funeral. So yeah, I think I might be losing my mind just a little bit, and I may need something to cope. I called them up. They said you have to be a primary care physician to come get mental health services at this facility. I had to pause for a second. I said, wait a minute. BP's paying primary care patient at your facility before I can get to come in and see somebody because I'm losing my mind? Are you kidding me? So I went to my dermatologist. I said, hey, Mr. Dermatologist, I don't want to go see their doctor. He wrote me a prescription, and I went down there and I turned it in and I made the appointment. A couple days later, I was supposed to go in with my uncle to the house, and she said, Kendra, you want to see that doctor? I said, no, indeed not. I don't want to go talk to these people. Thank you. So I decided not to go. But that's the only type of healthcare services that have been incorporated into Plaquemines Parish for people affected by this oil spill. And I think that that probably echoes throughout the entire Gulf Coast, because I have not heard of anywhere where someone went to a physician that BP paid for, and then BP sent them to any type of specialist to get any actual medical help. Nowhere. So that headline back then looked really good for Judge Barbier, BP, Transocean, Halliburton, all of these, the Obama administration. Let's go ahead and throw him under the bus with them. The FDA, EPA, it looks really, really good for NIOSH, all of them. They had some human health services that were coming to the Gulf Coast. 6 years, guys, and they're still not here. So what I hope to take from this meeting today is that at some point we come together and demand that there's actual services for people like my family and the Browns and others that are in this room and across the entire Gulf Coast. You know why this room's not fuller than it is? People are too sick to make the trip. They're either too sick, too broke, or too tired to get here. That's why this room isn't wall to wall. Or deceased, thank you very much. The month of March just passed. First 2 weeks of March, I buried 3 friends. April came. First 2 weeks of April, I buried 2 friends. Some of these funerals that come by, I know a lot of people in my community. Guess what? We have under 4,000 residents where I live. I'm going to a few funerals every month. I'm not going to all of them as dying. People are dropping in my community like flies. One of my friends, they go to wake up 36 years old. 3 kids, 16, 15, and 13. She's not breathing. She's gone. I had to be the one to go to that funeral and watch her baby crumble. She come stay with me for a month after her mama died. I'm sorry. That was getting this kid through the first month. It was up, down, up, down. You don't know loss until you look into a child's face that has had to bury their mama. That's that baby's mama. She's never gonna see this kid get married. She's not gonna see her graduate. She's not gonna see her walk down the aisle, and she's not gonna hold her first grandchild. Because she's gone, 36 years old. 36 years old, you should be in the prime of your life. You shouldn't be going to somebody wake you up and you're not breathing. This girl was a perfect picture of health before the oil spill. She worked nonstop, full-time student because she got a divorce, decided to further education, go back to college, and make a better life for her kids. Wide open. After the oil spill, every time he turned around, she was sick. It was the upper respiratory issues, the skin issues, the bronchial infections. She ended up being diagnosed with asthma at, I think it was 34. It was just one thing after another, after another, after another. And the night before she died, they said she was fine. I left to go hunting about 5-6 days before then. And I was in a tree stand. My phone usually don't work when I'm in a stand, but I got a text from a girlfriend of mine that said, call me 911. I don't usually get those kind of texts from my friends, so I called her up and she said, you know, she's gone. And she explained to me. My phone don't usually work in the woods, but that day it worked. I had just went and brought her fudge right before I left for Christmas. I brought her a couple boxes of fudge that we made, went and seen her at her job, hugged her neck. She was fine. And then she's gone. This is happening over and over again. The people in my community are being diagnosed with different forms of cancer throughout my entire community. Used to, we'd go to the grocery store, the corner store, 7-Eleven, and be like, hey, how's mom and them? What's the kids up to? And we'd trade stories about what our families were doing or what we were doing in our businesses or our children's education and whatnot. Now, the topic of conversation in Buras, Louisiana is cancer. You know, it's completely crazy. I do definitely believe that I would say probably about 90% of these illnesses that are in our community are from the exposure and the fallout of the Deepwater Horizon disaster in the Northern Gulf. I truly do believe that. How do we recover? That's the golden question. How do we recover without BP paying the bill? Now, I can tell you in my community and in a lot of coastal communities, because of the financial impact, just like I lost my health insurance. When I go home, like I said, I just put my light bill on my credit card. I'm going to apply for food stamps and Medicaid. So guess what? Guess who pays for BP's mess? The American taxpayers. You know, I remember Tony Hayward early on saying the statement that he didn't want to see the American taxpayers foot this bill, or the American taxpayers, he guaranteed, I think was his words, would not foot this bill. I got news for Tony Hayward, BP, Bob Dudley, all their shareholders, the United States government, and especially the message for the taxpayers of the United States of America. The hard-working people that had nothing to do with this incident, they're going to foot the bill. That's who's going to foot the bill. So that's pretty much all I got to say about the medical end of it. I'm going to jump into the fishery real quick, because this is something that's near and dear and important to me. I've heard the term, is the seafood safe? Well, I can tell you, early on when we first started going back fishing, I didn't see nothing in the shrimp. Not in 2010. 2011, I think Dean Blanchard said it best from Grand Isle when he said, they call it black gill disease. If the O was blue, would it be bluegill disease? Think about that statement. If the O was red, would it be red gill disease? If it was purple, would we call it purple? I mean, I'd never seen black gills on my shrimp, ever. You ever seen black gills in your shrimp before that? No, not before that. Thank you, sir. I never seen that before. So then, that's the end of 2010, 2011, we see the black gill disease. Then, see, I don't just shrimp. I also fin fish offshore. I target a long laundry list of different species, everything from amberjack, red snapper, mangrove snapper, grouper, pompano, king mackerel, bluefish, blue runners. We fish mullet inshore, plus shrimp. So there's a few other species that we catch a little bit of, but that's the ones we catch a lot of. But anyways, so 2011, we start seeing this stuff in the gills, where whenever you pick the fish, the gill on the side of the fish, it had like a discoloration on it. We got our fish offshore anyway, so we cut them open. I'm looking at a black sludge inside the gut of the fish, in the stomach and in the linings of the guts. It was coming out the stomach wall, through the meat, and then you would see it underneath the scales. Outside of that, we were seeing big sores on the outside of the fish. I think that the same thing happened to our fisheries, happened in Alaska. Just like this stuff attacks the human health immune system, and we're not able to fight off things that we're coming in contact with in our day-to-day going about, I think the fish are suffering the same thing in the north Gulf of Mexico, or were, where because of the exposure, their immune system was busted down so far that they wasn't able to combat the normal natural parasites that was in the water column. That's what all the sores were coming from, but that's not what the black sludge was from in their stomach. I couldn't figure out how greater amberjack, certainly not greater amberjack, they're definitely not running around, or swimming around rather, eating the oil. How is it getting into their stomach? And then I'm fishing under a rig one day. Yep, we fish under the rigs. And along comes a tide line that goes to pass. And there's little oil droplets floating on the surface of the water, and all of a sudden the bluefish and the little blue runners, they start hitting that oil. And they were eating the oil off the surface of the Gulf. And then you have an amberjack that eats the blue runner. That's how we catch them, with blue runners. That's our bait source. We catch the blue runners, and then we go target the amberjack. From the amberjack eating the smaller fish that was consuming the oil, it was bioaccumulating in their stomach. The fish was digesting, but the oil was not. That's what we were seeing. So then we seen the massive die-offs, right? Not only was there stuff washing up all over the Gulf Coast that, I don't know if anybody remembers this, that the fishermen got the blame for, like the turtles and dolphins, let's not forget that one. But offshore, we were seeing stuff disappear. We were seeing our mangrove snapper disappear. We were seeing our greater amberjack that had, some of them disappeared, and then like on the west side of the peninsula of Plaquemines Parish, we were seeing low body weight. They were like fish with just no body. You know, amberjack's a thick, solid, heavy fish. And they were skinny like a rail. We were seeing the king mackerel, the black sludge in their stomach. Well, as we started to see the mass amounts of the bait that's on the surface of the water disappear, we seen our migratory fish, like king mackerel, also disappear. If a migratory fish comes into an area and there's not a viable, plentiful food source, what's healthy is going to continue to move on. It's not going to stay because it doesn't have anything to eat. So since we're in 2016, 15, 14, 13, and 12, our king mackerel season was a complete bust. All of those years we've yet to be compensated. The amberjack on one side of the river was skinny as rails, but the amberjack on the other side was thick and healthy looking last year. I'm not seeing the sores on the outside of the fish. Look, in 2013 and 14, right, 13 and 14, we were seeing where we cut the fish open, and the liver of the fish would be hardened, discolored, and have tumors on it. I have a photo on my phone from an 11-year-old boy. Both of them are super intelligent. Luckily, we went through it. If it wasn't for that detox program, I wouldn't be the woman standing in front of you today, because I was a sick individual before I went to the detox program. Severe headaches, skin rashes. I'm all scarred up. Once we went through the detox program, I wasn't so much focused on myself as I was my daughter, because she was the sickest out of us four. I really felt like I got my daughter back. She was right back to the same Alina that I had pre-BP. Then we went home. After about a month of being home, Alina became sick all over again, but it wasn't as bad. So it was still better than it was. My husband will never recover. I can honestly say that now. Every time my husband becomes ill from this, I am terrified. Like, this is really hard for me to talk about. David and I don't have an average marriage. When we met, we fell in love. We was on a boat together every day. When you live with your spouse, but not just at home, you get up and you work with them every day, and that's your partner in every capacity of the word, you grow a closeness with this individual that's closer than any sibling you would ever have. It's a magical relationship. I mean, I tell you what, I'm so blessed with the partner that I have. I love my commercial fisherman. He is my heart and soul, and he is a superb parent. And I look at him and I wonder, is he going to be like this other parent and not ever see our kids graduate, go to college, get married? Will he ever hold his first grandchild? That's a scary thought for me. I don't sleep anymore because I wake up all night and I reach out my hand and I lay it on him. You know what I'm talking about, don't you, Mrs. Brown? You know. You feel me. You know exactly what I'm saying.
He will force himself to stay up because he said, when he's asleep, I can see him. When I'm asleep, I won't know if he's breathing or not. In the beginning, the breathing was so bad to where the bed was shaking. When the bed would stop shaking, it was like you had a new baby home. I'm looking to see his clothes. I'm looking to see if he's breathing. And then he would take a deep breath
and cough, he was not breathing. And then he would go into the shaking, they call it labor breathing, to where his whole body, he was breathing from here, not just here. And like she said, every day, every night, it is scary. You don't know. And he will go to bed with me. In the middle of the night, he's gone. One night I couldn't find him. It was storming outside, raining. And he always took his phone because he's afraid. I called his phone. I said, "Where are you?" He was under the carport, in the car with the windows down, sleeping. When he sleeps like this, in the chair on the sofa. When you sleep like this, you fall asleep, what happens? Your arm falls. Your arm falls, you wake up. He is afraid to go to sleep, and he'll tell you that.
David don't sleep much at night. He wakes up all through the night too, so I completely understand that. You know, it's, and you try to look at them so that you don't disturb their sleep. You know, because for a while I was reaching out my hand, I would touch him to make sure he was breathing. But I realized after, you know, about a year and a half of doing that, that I was seriously disturbing my husband's sleep. So I'll wake up and I'll sit up and I'll just look at him for a minute. And then I won't see the blanket move, so then I'll push the blanket down real light, and then I'll finally see it move. And I mean, I have to laugh at myself sometimes because we're not supposed to live like this. I mean, this is why I was gonna go seek mental health, because I really felt like I was losing my mind. So, at any rate, I've talked way too long. I'm gonna give Riki back the mic, but, so wait, let me finish up about the fishery real quick, Riki, I'm sorry.
I actually want you to talk about, I'll finish the fishery and then I got a question for you.
So a lot of people want to know if the seafood's safe, right? Everybody wants to know if the seafood's safe to consume. So this is that double-edged sword for the commercial fisheries and the people in it, that if we talk about what we've seen early on and we don't talk about what we see today, then people might not trust the seafood. So I'm going to tell you, for about the first 24 to 30 months, I would not, did not, could not consume or cook seafood in my house with a good heart. I just couldn't do it. About every fishery that we have, other than shrimp, because it's just too hard to do with shrimp, unless we've seen like the blisters on the shrimp, the little tumor things that were growing that were never identified what the heck they were. We would throw those away. But on my amberjack, king mackerel, snapper, all those species, any of these fish that we found black sludge, or it was coming out to the outside, or it had lesions on it, we were throwing that away. Nobody was paying us for that. We contacted National Marine Fisheries Service, because a lot of this is federal fisheries, and asked them, what do we do with these fish? Sometimes it was 20% of our catch that we were seeing us in, all the way up to 40, 50% of our catch that we were seeing. What do we do with these fish? We're out here working. We need to get paid for our catch. Throw it overboard. Well, what you gonna do? We throw it overboard. I'm not gonna bring that and put it on the market and sell it to anybody else's family when I don't know about a sniff test, but I know my eyes are not lying. If I see black sludge in a fish, I'm not bringing it to a market for you to eat. Now, was all the fishermen doing the same thing? I don't know. I wasn't on their boats and I wasn't on their dock and I wasn't gutting their fish, so I can't speak for them, but that's what we did. After the first 24 to 30 months, I finally started eating shrimp. Shrimp's lifespan is not very long, so I felt comfortable eating shrimp. Then as I'm going offshore and I stopped seeing the lesions on the fish and the black sludge in the fish and all that kind of stuff, my main concern was the liver. I was watching an interview with Drew, and he opened up the snapper, the pictures of the snapper, and he was showing to look at the livers to see for the discoloration, the hardening, or the lesions on the livers. So that's what I was really watching for, was the liver and the fish. And when I finally started to see that the livers were completely clear, that's when I started eating offshore fish again. But not a moment before. Do I feel comfortable bringing my catch today to the dock and selling it for the American consumer? I absolutely can say that I do feel comfortable selling my fish to the American consumer. But, there's a but. On the coast, we consume a much higher level of seafood than someone who lives in Virginia. They might go eat at Red Lobster, imported seafood by the way, but they might go eat at Red Lobster once a month. They might go twice a month. They might go to the neighbor's fish fry once a month, or the church fish fry once a month. But they're not consuming it like the coastal communities are consuming. I mean, face it, when we boil seafood, we got some P-rolls set up on the tables. It's full. We party for 6 to 8 hours the whole time we're eating seafood. So it's the level of consumption, whether it's safe or not to eat the seafood right after oil spill. Do I think it was safe right after oil spill? Absolutely not. I didn't need it. So that's pretty much what I want to say about the fishery, other than we did see mangrove snapper finally start to come back around some of the rigs last year. The king mackerel were a little bit better last year than 14, but we're still not seeing where we can catch our limit per day. Amberjack opened in January of this year. We was not catching our limit per day, but they were fatter. They didn't have black sludge. The livers were clear, and they looked, they were. There's a difference between fighting a healthy fish and fighting a sick fish when you work on bandit gear, which is what we work with offshore, and you're bringing a big fish in the boat like that. The amberjack was a healthy fight now. It's strong instead of like it was 11, 12, and 13. So I'm really excited to see those things. Have our stocks recovered fully? Absolutely not. In Louisiana alone, we're down, I think it's last year's number, we're about 40% overall in collectively caught and landed pounds in the state of Louisiana. Now you take any business and say, okay, you sell $100,000 worth of product a year. We're going to take 40% off of that. What's going to happen to that business? More than likely, it's either just going to scrape by, or it's going to fail, or you're going to kill your equipment because you don't have no money to put back in your boat before you go back on the water. So our fishermen's fleet across the Gulf Coast is being impacted in a way that I don't think people understand what this means. If we cannot get on our boats and run these boats out here, and we lose this way of life, 6% of Americans own or have access to a recreational vessel to be able to access this public resource. 94% of Americans, this public resource belongs to all of us. The only access that you will have or anyone will have to this public resource is through your commercial fishermen. If we lose our commercial fishermen, and this is not something that kids go to college to learn to do, this is something that we teach our children from a very early age on up, how to do, where to go, how to plot out a track, how to mend nets, how to do fiberglass, how to work on large diesel engines. I mean, a fisherman's really a jack of all trades. They say that we're ignorant and uneducated, but I got news for people. Follow one around for a year. Put on his boots. I dare you. They're hardworking, intelligent individuals. If we lose this culture and this way of life along the Gulf Coast, it's something that cannot be recovered. This is not a teachable trade in a classroom environment. So we have got to do everything that we can do to make sure that this culture remains intact. And how do we do that? I think that there's a lot of things that I want to talk to our commercial fishermen about, and how to move our fishery forward as far as how to sustain what we do have left. Because, hey, you can't catch what's not there. If it's not there, you're not putting it in a box and you're not putting it on the dock or a dinner plate. But what we can do is we can stop these processors from taking all our money, and we can sell direct boat to table and help our fishermen out. We're going to have to rebrand our product and do everything we can do to make sure we get the most money for our product as possible. But in the meantime, we got to do something about human health, because if our fishermen are dying, they can't go catch enough fish. So that's pretty much it.
I quote a lot, what she said about the medical doctors, and a quote was, and I think you'll remember, they're violating our Hippocratic oath twice. They're diagnosing us for something we don't have. You got a cold, you got a flu, you got a headache, you got a... And they're violating it again because they're not treating us for what we do have. Exactly. And the one question was, I have those, one time you told me that the nurses' cabinets at the local school, where your kids were in school, were, before the BP disaster, there were maybe a couple nebulizers, and now they were stuffed full. Has that changed at all?
So some of the kids in our community that became sick early on, it seems like there's some of them that have gotten better, but there are a handful of children in our community that have gotten worse. Just 2 months ago, I was at the Beta Convention, and I got a phone call, and I was distraught immediately because there's this little girl who lives down in Titans Parish, Louisiana. Her name's Laylee. Laylee will be 11 years old in July. She is a free-spirited, loving child. Before the Deepwater Horizon incident in the Gulf, I have photos, videos of this kid, because it's one of my good friend's kids. So she goes to the zoo with us and all that kind of extracurricular stuff. Kid's skin was clear, she was thin, beautiful skin, nothing, no bald spots in her head. She's scarred for life, from head to toe. This child was 5 years old when this began. She will never remember what it was to be healthy. Your childhood, a person's childhood, is supposed to be a magical time in their life of running and jumping and playing and being and learning and growing and going, right? This kid will never know what that is. You know, Laylee's been sick. She's been so sick. Mr. Brown had spoke earlier and said something about his intestines not working properly. When Laylee was 7 years old, her intestines stopped working properly. She has the breathing problems, the skin problems, the hair falling out. She will go to sleep and her face is clear other than the scarring, and wake up the next morning and she's blistered on her way to Children's Hospital. This happens overnight to this kid. I showed a physician over in Florida the pictures of her legs. Was the first thing that I showed him. I said, what do you think about that? He said, well, it's either an 80-year-old or a meth head. I said, well, how would you like to know that it's a 7-year-old little girl from my community? His mouth dropped. Just a few months ago, I get a phone call at the Beta convention, and it's her mama, and she tells me, Laylee's in the hospital. I said, well, what's wrong with Laylee? Her pancreas ruptured. Or not pancreas, her appendix ruptured in her body. Now, some people would say, well, that's really dangerous for a healthy person, right? But for Laylee, it's much different, because her immunologist, the pediatric immunologist, said it's not that Laylee's immune system has been compromised from the exposure, it's that her immune system has been destroyed from the exposure. So now anything, just like the fish and the dolphins out in the ocean, anything that this baby comes in contact with, it literally can put her in a box. She is the sickest child that I have found on the Gulf Coast, and just happens to be someone who's really, really near and dear to my heart. She can't come to my house to sleep over anymore because she has to have like the bubble child environment. And I have dogs and we burn candles and different things sometimes. And she can be around none of it. So she can't even come to my house anymore to play. My house, you have to understand something. My house is in the corner of a cul-de-sac. And I'm like the Kool-Aid mom. All the kids come to my house to play and hang out because it's a safe space. This kills me that this kid that I love with everything in me, her brother can come be dropped off. He's fine. But she can't come be dropped off. That kills me that she can't come to my house anymore. So this is a child that really, really, really worries me on a day-to-day basis. I pray for this little girl. And I worry about this child. The nebulizers in the school was something that blew my mind, because our school it's in a little bitty community. We're like a big happy family at our school, and most of us in some capacity are related, and these educated individuals in the school didn't put up a red flag when the medical closet filled up with nebulizers and rescue inhalers and EpiPens. Kids that never had allergies before all of a sudden are allergic to everything they come in contact with? What in the hell is going on? But nobody wanted to say anything. New York Children's Health Fund came down and put up a pediatric medical mobile unit. They opened in October 2010, and then they put it behind a firehouse, behind a football field, behind a community center from the main road. Nobody even knew it was there. But that's where the pediatric immunologist was at. So Laylee knew it was there, and she was seeing him. Her mom knew it was there. So she was bringing Laylee to see this physician. Well, then they start parking at our local school. You know how I found out about the closet full of nebulizers and rescue inhalers? It wasn't from anybody at our school. It was from the national director of New York Children's Health Fund that had went in and toured our school. You're the national director of the New York Children's Health Fund. We have all these educated individuals in the school, and nobody raised a red flag that this was going on except for me. What is wrong with this picture? So who do we trust? Who can we trust? Where are the physicians to help us? Who's gonna pay for it besides the American taxpayers? And how do we get that here? So I think that's you, Riki.
And I'm sorry I talked too much. I think the other thing, what Kendra's saying is so important, because we're seeing.
Mike.
Yeah, while Tricia's coming up here, I just want to say a couple of things about susceptible people. Because what we heard in Kendra's story was that the little girl is nearly dying here and sick, and her brother seems to be fine. What's up with that? Well, it turns out that we're all individuals, and how we respond to these chemical pollutants is also very individual. So you can have people in the same family. Some are almost dying and being rushed to the hospital, some are not. And you can have what's happened after the Exxon Valdez oil spill, which is what, of everybody who got sick, yeah, we have the extreme where a bunch of people died, and we have the other extreme where a bunch of people did not fully recover. You never get all the way back once something like this happens to you, but they can manage it, where they have a reasonable life again. And then you have everybody in the middle. I was doing a health survey, pilot survey, 13 years after the Exxon Valdez oil spill, and contacting people, 245 people or so by phone, and I was describing these symptoms. And one of the former cleanup workers says to me very quietly, he says, I thought I had the Valdez crud in 1989, that cough, that flu-like stuff. He goes, nobody told me I was going to have it for 13 years. And this is what we're looking at down here. We're looking at where's our government? Our government comes in the year of the spill. Exxon Valdez and the BP disaster, they do a health hazard evaluation. They said everybody had heat stroke, food poisoning, MRSA-like skin rashes. There was not one written diagnosis of chemical illnesses. Well, where are they now to do a follow-up study 6 years later? Because people don't have heat stroke for 6 years. They don't have a cold or a flu for 6 years. Treating people with antibiotics is when you have a biological-caused illness, not a chemical-caused illness. That is not going to work. And in fact, what we heard from the Browns is it could possibly make it worse. Why? Because a lot of these pharmaceutical drugs are oil chemicals themselves. And your body's already super sensitized to this. So what we're talking about here is a detox program. Tricia, come on up.
I think I was just informed, people need to break for a little while.
Okay.
They're getting antsy and overwhelmed, and they're probably hungry.
So why don't we have Drew? Is now a good time for Mr. Drew Landry?
Yeah, let Drew sing, and then if you guys want to get something to eat, there's food.
We have the Coastal Center, the volunteers for the Coastal Response Center.
Thank you to them. And you'll find in your schools here too, I just want to throw this in, keep an eye on your schools and the babies, because your schools are full of kids here in Bayou Lavacchi and Coden of children.
And before we eat, we're going to have a little prayer for our gratitude here. Miss Ida, would you join us up here?
Pray into the mic.
Good evening, everybody. This is a mixed emotion time for me. I done heard from everybody. And by me being on the city council, I feel like South Mobile County has always been left out of a lot of things. But we need people that can stand up, talk to the government. And while all this money is going to other states for different structures, it needs to come to Bosarge. It needs to help the people. I walk among the people. I know I'm supposed to be here for a prayer, but I walk among the people. No effort of trying to improve things. I went 2 weeks ago to Bayou Clinic with some people from New York and New Orleans and everything. Where is the money? Where is the money? The people need the money on this end. We doesn't have a good representative on this end that can go and say, this is what we need. We need to band together because it affects all South Mobile County. Not only Bosarge, but all of Mobile County. So, you know, we have to put God back into this thing and just pray that God will send us somebody to help South Mobile County, because we are in dire need of it. I've been there 16 years and I'm gonna stay there until I can't breathe, I guess, but I'm still gonna be trying to do what I can and go to all the meetings. Now, we done had water testing, we done went to several meetings. The young man is here to know that, how many meetings, I don't know how many meetings we done went to about BPR spill and everything else in the water quality. But he know more about the water quality because he's been there longer than I have. But I just pray that God will send us somebody to help us, because I have seen the effect of, not only Lori, but a lot of people. And they're on low income and they're paying these lawyers. They done fill out all kind of paperwork. But where is the money? So that's what we need to say. Where is the money? We need money on this end. We need quality people that can fight for things on this end. And now it's time for me to pray. Oh, gracious and almighty God, Heavenly Father, you sit high and you look low. And I'm calling on you, Heavenly Father, because I know you know all about everyone in this room. Heavenly Father, I want you to touch everybody in this room. Put us on one accord, Heavenly Father. Bind Satan. You know the needs of the people, but you're the only one that we can stand still and count on. We can call on you anytime, night or day. You're always there for us. And Heavenly Father, bless all the leaders that put forth effort to put this program on, Lori and everybody else. And Heavenly Father, I ask a special blessing on this food, that it may be nourishment to our bodies. But most of all, Heavenly Father, just bind Satan and all the city officials and all the nation. We come together because the lack of the people is much needed. All these blessings I ask in your Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Lori, you want to share what's up for dinner? And while everybody's helping themselves, we'll get Drew up here.
Yeah, just help yourselves. We've got red beans and rice. If you have gluten allergies or if you're a vegan, please let them know. And we've got special side dish of red beans and rice for you as well. And y'all go help yourselves.
We've got more stories.
Yeah, we have
more people that need to talk.
We've got.
Tell us what's coming.
Get better.
I have a room full of people that are sick. There's a gentleman in back, 3 people that want to talk about this red tide issue. Exactly. And I've got Tony here. I've got some really incredible people that need to tell you their stories. Thanks for doing this.
You can, don't mean you should. Just cause you want it doesn't mean I would not do it all again. Wanna do it all again. Yeah, you can travel around the world on the 7 seas. Once you come back, you might not ever leave. Look down from your trouble on that mountain peak. But if you don't learn nothing, girl, you damn sure gonna do it. Ooh, do it all again. They said that war was gonna be the end. Already have another one since then. Just watch them do it all again. Gonna do it all again. Just cause you can now, don't mean you should. Just cause you want it doesn't mean I would not do it all again. Do it all again.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Drew.
Which Matt Colin Kunas. I'm from Louisiana. I worked for a commercial crawfisherman for a long time and pulled sinker cypress and playing music when I can. I went to happened to have a gig during Jazz Fest in 2010.
or the next day BP was going to be South Plaquemine Parish, so I went to the Boothville gym, took the first safety class. I thought, you know, if I can't do anything to really help, you know, volunteer or whatever, maybe this is how I can make a difference cleaning oil. And I served in the Louisiana National Guard, and I guess I felt guilty about not having to go to Iraq. Some of the cats on the rig had served, and one of them was kind of a cousin through marriage, and he jumped off the rig. He was all right, but I knew because it was that deep, it was going to be a pretty big deal. And early on, I realized that BP had changed the contracts on the fishermen not to take care of their health. They wouldn't let them bring respirators on the scene. And I just kind of started, I just kept following the response. And I'm a songwriter, that's what I do. And I think just meeting these people and them being part of my life, and now my extended family, I wrote some tunes about the songs. And one of them in particular went viral. Put it out on Warner, and we gave that money to Louisiana Environmental Action Network, who was trying to buy respirators for these cleanup workers. And, you know, I think I didn't know that much about Southeast Louisiana. I knew more about Southwest Louisiana and Chapala Basin. But there's some great people that were sustaining the living off the bounty of the Gulf before, and now, while I got to say, oysters are starting to spat again. We're seeing some really great improvement. Some of the people that were not treated and diagnosed for acute symptoms or something or now have chronic ailments, and I think that's a fundamental problem. Not identifying people that get sick during a response. And I think that, you know, I went to your state of Alaska because I wanted to know more about citizens' oversight, and also I think we need to change overnight. I think we need to be ready. The laws need to change for a deep water disaster. We weren't prepared for a tanker or a barge accident, but I think we're not ready for another 87-day gusher. Anyway, play some more music. That's what I do.
All right.
Thank you, Drew.
Grew up on the southern shore, Louisiana, and that ain't no more. Kicking good up off a crawfish hole, barefooted with a fishing pole. If I'm lucky, I could have a son. Take him hunting like his daddy done. Get him working on a fishing boat up and down the Gulf of Mexico. Living dead out on the deep sea rig, doing what it is they had to live, all bleeding from a gaping hole, up and down the Gulf of Mexico. Morgan City out to Mobile Bay, past Cooler down to FLA. Me, I'm stuck out here for 7 more, watching everything turn black offshore. Somebody tell these fools in office, don't split down the party line. Just 'cause we ain't got a dollar don't mean we ain't worth a dime. 'Cause down in Camden Parish, way to St. Bernard, you got shrimp boats on the high ground and carpets in the yard. So what you gonna tell a man? Ain't got nothing left, trying to go back to somewhere life that don't no more exist. It's just a slab of concrete underneath that mud north. 7 generations buried
beneath that marshy soil. Ain't sure where TV preachers gonna be when Jesus come. All I wanted was a little piece of land. My Father gave his son now. Everybody come together. There's a song, it must be sung. It's written by the governor while he stared into the sun. You can sing it if you know it. Smoke it if you got it. You are my sunshine, my own sunshine. Yeah, you make me happy, baby, when them skies is gray. But you never will know, dear, how much I love you. Mama said, don't take my little sunshine away. My little brother, he ain't feeling well. What you spraying on that all spill? How many of us gonna lose our lives? Oh, the people get to work on time. Tell the banker I don't want a loan. Send them lawyers back to kingdom come. I said, even Jesus couldn't save their soul. Put me back out on my fishing boat. Kicking mud up off a crawfish hole, and barefooted with a fishing pole. Gone back into the oil field, so that's the only way to pay our bills.
Real good mic stand there.
Let's talk about those respirators just a bit while you're tuning up.
Sure.
So those respirators, what we learned during the Exxon Valdez oil spill was that fishermen needed them. And we got fishermen that are trained now on standby, and they're paid by the oil company who use their fishing boats when there's an oil spill to take HAZWOPER training, hazardous waste operator training, so that they are prepared. They know how to use respirators. They know how to maintain those respirators. They don't get heat stroke when they're using those respirators. The real concern here was scary TV pictures of people with respirators on these beaches, and maybe that would scare the tourists away. Maybe the tourists shouldn't have been there anyway. But I know that Louisiana Environmental Action Network tried real hard to get respirators out there, and I also know that the people out there were told, if you wear these respirators, your job will be terminated.
Well, I think there was people in the response that were spraying that had respirators. There's certainly, I mean, I don't know, I don't blame anybody on can't really blame the Coast Guard because BP had to check it. And because of the way the law is configured, while BP is the responsible party unless they turn it over to the government, it's their mess. So you've got the criminal to control the crime scene. Because I want to say, look, I don't care if they were working with BP or the Coast Guard or whoever, they were out there breathing the same air, and some of those people had issues. You know, I talked to political politicians, I talked to first responders, you know, across the board people came down with different illnesses. A lot of people have a pretty bad cough, but you know, I still think it's about, you know, there's the offshore safety, which means addressing the problems with the blowout preventers and all this, but, you know, I may be wrong about this, but I thought they were getting so many kicks that the blowout preventer was being operated manually. So I don't know that legislation is even going to help if you continue to do crazy stuff like that. And I know that, you know, in the case there was, I think, 26 different things that happened where if at any point they'd have spent more money, it probably wouldn't have happened. And they were obviously trying to get to another job. You know? I think you want to talk about the response. In my opinion, they put these fishermen out of work, and these guys weren't trained on how to clean oil like they are in Prince William Sound. In Prince William Sound, they've learned. They got, if you got a double hull tanker, you get escorted up the Sound, and there hasn't been another spill since. And the years following the BP spill, there's no citizens oversight committee that was like what they came up with after that. They also were pretty secretive about everything, and I think the bigger issue was they knew people were going to get sick. Instead of treating them early and making a program for that, they ignored them, and now we're seeing people that die. And I guess once you're dead, you can't sue nobody. But I don't know. Anyway, the point is, I think other people that are smarter than me will figure out how to stop, to address well control issues, but in the response, if we're not able to stop that in a timely fashion, the same thing's going to happen. So maybe I'll listen to songs here.
Yep, I think we're back to songs, but just to confirm what Drew is saying, the blowout preventer situation is pretty much the same, and now we're in double deep in the water that we were before. This is risky business.
Anyway, you got some smart people. Just got to hold them to it. This song I wrote, my buddy Dr. John recorded it. Wow. He never able to get it out the way he could have made a big difference. Say 11 good men lost their lives on a rig out on the sea. Sunk that on and sprayed it, C-O-R-E-X-I-T. All the saints on the riverbank, tell me what this old man do. The Gulf wind that won't steal my soul, boy, damn near killed my crew. I say they killed all the turtles. Killed all the turtles, Lord, tried to kill the humans too. Here we go like a buffalo, like Nazis done the Jew. I say they killed all the turtles, killed all the turtles, man, trying to kill the pelicans too. You can spend yourself $60 billion, man. Still ain't killing the truth. That's right, the marsh grass burn with poison. Fish gills make you cry. Had to move my old grandma out, my little sister up and died. Don't you let your daughter out in that water. She might not be coming home. Empty nets and welfare checks ain't nothing that we want. Say they gonna clean this mess. What's his man to do? Living in the promised land, the third world country blue.
We got one more song, maybe, Drew? You're up for that? Hang on, we're just going to call everybody back to order while we get some more folks for the speak out. Let's get everybody back in the Lori, Herb, Yolanda. Let's get everybody back so we can get some more speak outs here. Possible herd cats. All right, we're going to want Captain Jack up pretty quick here. We're going to want Emily Harris, a Master's in Public Health and a Safety Officer in Disaster Response up here.
Mayflower disaster. So we're gonna give it to Drew one more time, and then back we are.
Right, here we go. Tell me, what can we learn? Our forefathers' memory. What kind of lessons they take to the grave? Turned out and exiled, land in our labor. They sold you on freedom just to treat you like slaves. 25 feet, that old levee may reach. There may be no going back on home. Thought I saw light in the dark of the night. It was only the eye of the storm. Grandfather chopped down the world's tallest cypress. Said he could not get by on a moss picker's wage. Tell me, what we'll learn from that old codger's memory. Lord, I pray we ain't destined to make that mistake. I pray we ain't destined to make that mistake. Tell me, who'll pay the cost of paradise lost? 'Cause the old folks might roll in the grave. I thought I saw light in the dark of the night. Why can't this be paradise saved? Got a job on the rig, son, in a deep water canyon. But he could not get by on the fisherman's wage. And we watch them big planes come to pause in our ocean. Seen that black tide kill the fish, won't say. Yeah, we seen that black tide kill the fish, won't say. Tell me, who'll pay the cost of paradise lost? The old folks might roll in the grave. I thought I saw light in the dark of the night. Can't this be paradise saved?
Thank you, Drew. I know you drove a long way to be here. Thanks a lot. So we're going to open this speak up and speak out again with, we're going to actually take it away from the Gulf Coast just for a minute with Emily Harris, who is a survivor of the Mayflower, Arkansas disaster, the Exxon Pegasus oil spill. Emily and I met in Clackamas Parish down here in 2010 when Emily was deployed with them. Emily is a safety officer. So Emily, she wears two hats. She is both on the helping side and from the community, from the hurting side. So Emily?
So, I don't like to argue with Riki, but she did say take it away from the Gulf, and I'm just not quite ready to do that. I've been trying real hard not to tear up, but I'm probably not going to do it either. But I met Kendra at that clinic, and we had a health survey printed, hundreds of copies. They wouldn't let us hand it out. They told us, they said, look at all these folks getting their teeth fixed for free and their glasses for free and primary care services that they haven't seen since Katrina because the hospital's still closed down. So yeah, we put our health surveys away and we went along with the plan because people needed what they were getting. But I saw things there that day that I will never forget. And it helped me know what was happening in my own community when the Pegasus pipeline ruptured. I saw little kids that were covered in rashes, were being diagnosed with ringworm, scabies, things that a whole community doesn't get. Pink eye went through our community like a wave. How do all these children, oh, you know how kids are, they share this and they share that. No. We had community members that lived closer to you that are still on medications, pregnant mamas that lost their babies. They never shut down. They evacuated a small residential area, but they never stopped doing business. We had a staging area with workers and equipment in the parking lot of the only grocery store. It's a little tiny town on a lake that is full of a lot of retired veterans, people that just want their lives to fish, maybe drink a cold beer, be left alone. They don't necessarily watch the evening news. They're probably out sitting on the porch talking to their friends. They don't hear this information. When we put up such a huge outcry through our Attorney General, our elected representatives, our senators, that we had to have a health survey. People had to be treated. People had to be seen that they were having health problems. They finally gave in to us, and they did, was a nightmare. They did these little intakes. They made people drive, go do this paperwork, then make another appointment to come back to see a doctor over a TV, to be told, oh, well, if you think you need health care, you should go get it. The hospital had enough sense to close the clinic down in the community. They didn't have enough sense to evacuate. And even folks that did leave on their own, a lot of them didn't because they had family members. They had horses. They had cows. They had chickens. They had dogs. You can't evacuate with horses and cows and chickens and dogs. It just doesn't work that way. It's our home. We have roots. It belongs. There's more to it than just a price tag. Actually, so many people have been injured. But your health is something else altogether. Trying to get your health back, trying to keep your health. It's hard enough in today's world alone without being bombarded by this oil and these chemicals. Dr. Ott and I are working to provide training to the communities, not just here, but all over, to where we can recognize these problems more easily, that we will work to teach healthcare providers to diagnose and to find better treatment methods. We have heard over and over and over again, pharmaceutical drugs are not the answer to these problems. You have to do a detox program. You have to leave, you have to limit your exposures. You have to get away from whatever it is that's making you sick. And all this mental health business, you heard me catch myself, didn't you? Bull business. Well, don't you have a right to be mad? Do you have a right to be angry and irritable? You're not sleeping, you're not breathing, you're not eating, everybody's sick, you're not making no money. Gosh, of course we got mental health problems, but you can't blame that for what's going on. Mental health didn't cause this, not in this community. And, you know, I tell folks all the time, you got to get your head out of the sand and we got to deal with this. I remember when I saw the first report of the BP disaster, I refused to call it a spill. It's not a spill, you spill your milk, this is a disaster. I was still working for the Arkansas Department of Health, and I said, oh my gosh, you gotta get ready. They're gonna be evacuating people. And they're like, what? I said, yeah, they're gonna be sending people up. It's the largest environmental disaster. They're gonna bring people to Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. They're gonna have to go somewhere. They're gonna come here. We're just, and that's when they told me, no, our mutual aid compact is not what it used to be after Katrina. We got too many folks up here already that there wasn't anything to do with. nursing home patients, hospital patients, they shipped them up, and then there wasn't nobody to pay for their care, wasn't nobody to take them home, wasn't no place to send them. Arkansas's had enough of all that. We're not gonna get any more. This makes you crazy. Why would they evaluate those people? They got houses, they got grocery stores, and they still got food here. What are you doing? You're silly. Well, I started to watch, and I ran in online, Facebook maybe, to a fellow named Gray Hall. He went by Pensacola. I saw that man every single morning. He went out, he took a little video of himself, and he walked the beach, and he uploaded it, and then in the evenings, he had asked for somebody to please be his radio host. And that's how I got started with Greg. Every day, online, doing the report. We had Kendra call in, Wilma Subra, anybody that wanted to talk about what was going on in their communities, we put it out there on Blog Talk Radio. We did that for about 18 months, and they just absolutely destroyed Craig. He lost his job, he lost his mom, he lost his family. He's someplace far away, and hopefully he's a little more stable, but his life will never be the same. I met a girl in Little Rock that heard us on the radio. I was looking for a co-hostess because I couldn't do it all the time all by myself. I needed somebody to help me. So she got involved, and she got so involved, she come down here, and she started running around with a group, golf project. Thank you. And oh my gosh, what a crazy mess that was. They went out on a boat. She ended up with chemical pneumonia. Next thing I knew, she's calling me. She's almost dead. Please come get me out of here, take me home. I felt like I was lucky to bring her home alive. You know what? She's still on medications. And I know that's probably an invasion of private health information, but she's with me in spirit today. She'd be okay with me sharing that with you. She's not the same. She's not ever going to be the same. And that was just her exposure. She doesn't live here. She was just down here trying to help. How many times have we heard these stories over and over again? I was at Tampa. I was working with some folks over there. They had this great idea. It was when that call came out for great ideas to try and help get this oil under control. It was a great idea. Lay a line of PVC, let some air up through it, make an air curtain. Fish go through it, boat go through it. The oil doesn't. I was in the bay. We were deploying that. We were measuring to see how well it worked, taking video. I got sprayed while I was there. I'm not as sick as y'all, but I didn't come out in one piece. I have this eyebrow now. Anytime I get around any kind of oil or corrects it, it starts to go a little crazy. I was actually working in Mayflower. I was working for National Health Institutes, doing one of their surveys, and I was door to door in the community. I had surgery on my nose and had some matrix, like plastic medical stuff, put up in my nose because I couldn't breathe anymore. I was out there working. Nobody said anything about pipeline rupturing. It was way before you could see it bubbling up. But all of a sudden, all that plastic stuff was not ever supposed to come out. Once you put it in, it stays there. Well, that time I didn't know what was wrong either. I knew I didn't feel good. But the area I was working in, Mayflower, has always had some kind of issues. There's a little bit of, a landfill there that who knows what is in it. And before long, it was running down the streets. And then it rained really, really hard. And not only did it run down the street, it rushed a group. And we were working with the bucket brigade, and we were taking air quality measurements around the fracking. I live right at the foothills of the Ozark Mountains, and it's also the Fayetteville Shale. We knew we had a lot of people sick. We knew we had a lot of water issues from the fracking. And that's eyebrow, every time I get around it, it's the way I couldn't look the other way. So we were already set up. We had the equipment. We had the training. One of our members took that bucket down to the edge of the hill and took an air quality sample. It came back with over 200 times the standard that they say there's a risk at. But yet they kept telling everybody there's no risk, there's no risk. We don't know that different people react differently, whether you're pregnant or old or young. Everybody gets the same kind of medicine. Not everybody gets drunk the same way. We're all realized at an EPA-approved facility. And we went to go to try to talk to them about it. Look, you're telling us there's no risk, but here's the air quality that we found. They said, oh, well, there's no
risk to the people we evacuated. Well, that's right, because they weren't there. They weren't there. So there's always two sides. There's the side of the people, there's the side of the community. Y'all live here, eat here, work here, play here, go to school here, go to church here. You know your community. You don't need somebody else coming in and telling you that there's no risk. Well, we know there is. There is power all over the world. That's the only way we're going to get through this together.
Thank you, Emily. Stand here just a second. So Emily and I are putting out this toxic trespass training, and it's a series of trainings. It's about first understanding the risks of oil chemical exposures, how they get into your body, how you get the provider, and what information you might bring to that provider. That's up online. But there's more trainings than just that. It's also about doing our own mapping. You know your community. Where do we want the samples taken? Where are our vulnerable populations, our schools? Where are our exposure? We're talking fence line communities are exposed to the same oil chemical pollutants that came at y'all en masse after the BP disaster. And where can we do the citizen monitoring? With our high school kids, with our community colleges. This is an ongoing project, because when we get the data, then we start going and saying, we want change. We want change at the local level. We know this stuff is killing us. It's killing us drip, 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 daily exposures. It's killing us when it comes at you en masse with a big oil disaster. So this is about change, and this is what I just asked Emily to come in, because this is what I have been doing since Exxon Valdez. Basically, since 2008, pretty continuously, is traveling around in our oil corridors. This is what is happening. It's not just in the Gulf. It's everywhere. We're talking bomb trains. We're talking tar sands. We're talking, this is not a healthy future. What Alert Project, what I'm committed to after flying over the Exxon Valdez oil spill, is making healthy people and healthy communities part of our energy future, okay? We got to start looking broader. So Emily and I are committed to this, and we'll be back with more trainings. But Kimberly McHouston, thank you, Emily. Emily, that's...
No name.
Okay. Kimberly has tapped my shoulder and said, Captain Jack, you're up after this, that she really needs to go. She's getting sick again, so...
Well, it isn't so much getting sick. I'm recovering from some major shoulder surgery 7 weeks ago, and it's a hour and 20-minute ride. I'm from Baldwin County, Alabama, Gulf Shores, Orange Beach area. And yeah, I have a partner, and her and I began this in 2011, Alabama Coast United. We had this big long name, but what we are is a community action group, boots on the ground, bird dog, hound dog, the politicians, the people that are creating the barriers, okay, from us being able to get the things we need. And I had a lot of illness in the very beginning. With some help of some people in this room, I was able to get detox naturally, and I got better. But then in 2014, I started having vascular issues. I had a stroke on July 2nd of 2014, and then I had another stroke that took my left eye. Okay, I have no vision in the left eye, and that was in December. And so, you know, long term, I'm not worried about me. Okay, I've had a good life. I'm not worried about me. What I'm worried about is what we're leaving a legacy to deal with this, and we shouldn't be. And everybody has to get on board with this, okay, because it's our kids, it's our grandkids. And what we're seeing in Baldwin County and on into Pensacola, we're seeing a lot of intestinal problems. People that are losing part of their colon and having to have colostomies. And something that's very near and dear to my heart is my partner that helps me with Alabama Coast United. Her daughter turned 10 today. And that's why she's not here. But I talked to Michelle today, and she wanted me to bring up the thyroid issues. And her little daughter was diagnosed, she's like my adopted granddaughter, was diagnosed last summer with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And that is where for a 9-year-old kid, their thyroid just burn up all of a sudden for no reason. Doesn't run in the family, no genetic predisposition for this, just happened. And so now this little girl is seeing an endocrinologist over at Sacred Heart in Pensacola, and she will be on medication for the rest of her life, every day. And the medication has to go up and up and up as she grows. And the weight gain, this child at 9, 54 pounds over a 3-month period of time when the thyroid went out. And so even though that weight gain was very rapid, the weight loss, it doesn't come off like that. And so what we're seeing is just the next generations having to deal with this. And we're better than that. We don't leave this kind of legacy to our children or our grandchildren. And I have to say this because, as I said, we bird dog the politicians, and I'm very interested in what happens in Montgomery here in Alabama. And this week, Senate Bill 267 is up for a vote. That is BP money. Over I think it's $220 million of the $1 billion settlement that Alabama got. They want to spend it on roads. Okay? And we know there's so much more that needs to be done, and people need to be made whole. Okay? And we know how corrupt it is up there. And so what we need to do, in my opinion, is we just got to get on the phones, start bird dogging your senator, your representative, and say, no, we don't want this money going for roads, and we don't want it going into our general fund, into your pockets. It needs to come back to Mobile County and Baldwin County for restoration, for health, and that's the way it's got to be. So if you think you want to do something this week, get on the phone, call your senator, call your congressman, you know, put the pressure on, that's all you can do. But that's what I'm seeing, and that's what's going on. And thank you, Riki.
So I just want to mention about all these syndromes we've been hearing. During the Exxon Valdez, it was the Valdez crud, okay? And now I hear down here, it's the Gulf syndrome. Gulf, nothing. How about the BP syndrome? And how about calling this stuff what it really is? Captain Jeff, I hear you have a story to share tonight.
And after Captain Jack, I have another couple.
All right, good.
To share.
You know, it's kind of ironic about the, said about the 200 million for Riki, that far out is actually, on the bottom, is actually asphalt. And yeah, and over here in Theodore, at the beginning of it, I was running a containment barge and out of Theodore, and it was, the oil they were picking up really wasn't oil, it was real thick, like asphalt. And yeah, they were using it to put on the roads. And after the landfill got tired of taking it, and a bunch of people in the area started getting sick and dying, this happened in Theodore at the very beginning. And the landfills quit taking it. I don't know if you've heard about that, but they started, all of a sudden, we started getting new roads, and you know, in places that didn't even have roads before, dirt roads. Anyway, it's just kind of ironic how that money.
We'll come back to that
landfill. So anyway, my part, I guess, I don't know about being sick. Well, I'm a real captain. I run tugboats, and I've been doing it, I don't know, about almost 40 years now. And I was born on an island on the East Coast, and you had to take a boat to get out to the island, ferry. So I've been on the water my whole life, and I say that because when I'm not on the tug, I'm usually in the water surfing or sailing. That's my life. And yeah, we've all, I think, that are from this area were affected by Katrina. Well, I was living in Biloxi, and I had a beach business, and renting jet skis and stuff, and it was all gone. The house got taken, and my wife died, and blah, blah, blah. Went up on the shoulder road in, on the interstate, and started over again, you know, on that side of Pensacola. So, anyway, I was working on tugs, but I had quit because me and my wife got along with it, and I didn't want to be out there. So, after she died and all that stuff happened, I went back and got my license, and I said, well, that's pretty cool, you know, doing back what I'm supposed to be doing again, trying to give myself a reason to go on. Well, all of a sudden the oil spill happened. And it was right after, we had like the 2008 economic downfall, and all these boats in Louisiana were all tied up, and, it was just bad. And then all of a sudden, hey, they're coming out of mothballs. All these boats, we're going to clean up and stuff. And I can just remember at the beginning, listening on the radio, WWL, and they're talking about it, and talking with BP and what they're going to do. And this was in the beginning, And when I heard them talking about I was there, and I was running, like I said, a containment barge. And boats were going out, and the volunteers, and even BP had hired some boats, and they were bringing in the diapers and the booms and blah, blah, blah. And I would go anchor out in the middle of the different bay, Barataria Bay and places, and they would, at the evening, they would bring their stuff, and guy on the front of the church, they're going to put it in this barge. Well, there wasn't a lid on it. So I'm pushing around in the daytime, it's 100 billion degrees, and, like you see asphalt, you see the stuff coming up, I was breathing it, and that's how I got sick. So, the one thing I haven't heard about was the Cynthia. And you're familiar with that, right? Okay, the Cynthia was a synthetic, man-made, biological drug from hell. Because this stuff was made to eat. They sprayed it on the water, and it was made to make the bacteria grow. All right? Now, all this stuff about people with in the water, what's the one they're calling it? Vibrio. Yeah, Vibrio. Now, I can remember, like, way back, 1 or 2 cases a year or something, someone stepping on oyster. Now it's, a dozen people almost a year. And I wound up in home, and I wound up at LSU Hospital in Chattanooga. My foot had swelled up like a watermelon. And that was, in August, after the oil spill. And what had happened is, something stepped on something in water, like going out my cell or something. And usually that always happens in the summertime. I'm just wrapping with duct tape and toilet paper or something. Yeah, I need to clear it up, Keep going. But this thing, it swelled up. It was as red as that lady's shirt. And I got off the tug and went to the hospital, and my temperature was 105. And I went in, and long story short, they cut it. They did surgery, and they had to leave it open. And they marked it with a magic marker on my foot, like half of it. That's what the swelling was, like when a snake bite. They want to see if the swelling goes down or not. And I'm like, well, sir, we're going to have to, this is bad, and you got this and that, and we're going to have to put a port in you, and you're going to come back once a week for the next year, and there's an 85% chance you're not even going to make it. We're going to pump antibiotics in you. And so, yeah, I'm like, okay, well, anyway, I had prayer, and Monday morning it was gone. Okay? So anyway, that was another story. But what happened was the Cynthia they sprayed to make the bacteria, what it was supposed to do, the correct was supposed to sink it. The Cynthia they sprayed was supposed to make bacteria in the water grow. And it was a super strong, growing, amoeboid stuff that nothing, and I've heard about it and seen it. And seen all the things, you see it on Facebook, and they come out with scientists are like, well, this stuff, they made it where there's no fix for it, so it can just keep on eating the stuff. Because they wanted to make the oil disappear. They sank it with correction, and then the Cynthia was supposed to make it. The bacteria eat it, okay? Well, and it's not. And so that's how all that, and I get so mad when I hear that. And then they start talking about the red tide, okay? And, the red tide, what's it from? The red tide is from when all this fertilizer come out of the Mississippi River years ago, and it was making the stuff in the water grow, the bacteria and everything. Yeah, it was making the green stuff grow. Well, it grew so much that it died and shut the oxygen off in the water. But I think that's how it happened. What's the same? The Cynthia is doing the same thing. It doesn't pick out this and that is going to make it grow. It picks out all the bacteria like mold and oysters and anything, and it makes it grow. The lily pads over in Louisiana that you used to see in the bayou, I burned up 2 engines. Because there's so many lily pads that you can't even put your bars through it. It's almost like breaking ice. And that's after they spray. You got to back up, push through it, back up, push through it, because it's just growing and growing and growing. That's the green bacteria stuff. Well, anyway, I lost 100 pounds, and this is all after my foot got back out, and I was coughing up blood, okay? And I went to the doctor and he's like, okay, you got a sinus infection. Give me antibiotics, I go back to work, covers it up, and I feel a little better. Go back to work, 2 weeks later, I come home. Oh, you must have sinusitis, you must have bronchitis, you must have COPD.
Is that a little check mark?
Yeah,
box they can do?
every time I came back, it was something worse, you know? Well, now I'm afraid you got cancer. I'm like, okay, praise the Lord. And, they said, well, you know, and I was ready. I was done with all of this. You know, I lost 100 pounds. I was pretty much going around with a fever of 105 and taking the antibiotics, and I'd feel good for like a week, and then I'd get sicker the next time. So I started losing jobs. And over between 2011 and 2014, all right, I worked for 12 different companies. And the only reason that happened is because I go back to work and I get sick again. All right, come home, I can't go back there, you know, and it's because of all the stuff, the phone and all that, you know, the correction. And I had a chelation. I had got where I lost 100 pounds and I passed out at our church. And I woke up, I was in the hospital, and I got the toxicology reports, and benzene, all my stuff was like almost right off the chart. So anyway, I had chelation, and to get it out of me, and I eventually started getting back a little better. But every time I went back to work, I got sick, and I would have to quit, you know. And so in 2014, well, last year actually, I went to work on the East Coast. I just said, well, I can't do it anymore. Pretty much I ran out of most companies, you know. And I was just I mean, that's what it's been like, you know. You go down there, trying to find a job, blah, blah, blah. You can't, I mean, God's been providing for me. That's the only way to look at it. In 2014, I said, well, I'm going to go on the East Coast to see, you know. Then the water will be cleaner. I went over there, I worked for a year, and I didn't get sick. And I came back, now the oil business is like, you know. So here we are. And I'm just hoping that with the, what was it they just did, the barrier lifted to stay on the 20 billion they got to go ahead and actually just pay the fines is what they're doing, you know, paying the government and all. So I'm hoping now we'll get lifted, which is just, it's, you know, that's a whole different story, but talking about the medical, you know, I mean, it's shut down my life pretty much. My whole life has been running the tub, can't get out anymore. Boats and surfing and sailing. I had a 36-foot catamaran. I used to take people out chartering on and testing, right, when I was off. Don't do that anymore. So, you know, pretty much I got a pool, a Walmart pool in my yard, and that's my beach now. But you know what happens when that, when it rains, and well, the foam comes up. It goes up in the clouds come over, it rains, it goes down, and I got a sheen on my pool with that corrective foam on top of it. You know, and I actually went up, I said, well, let me try the Mississippi River, you know, won't be in the Gulf. I go up all the way to Memphis, Tennessee, went up the back way, the Boyer River and all, and the Tom Dickey, went up to Purdue, and got up there, and I see foam coming up behind my barges, and I'm going, man, what is this? This can't be. It actually put out the thing saying that it was, it had gone up in the clouds in the heat, and then the summer it pushes up, you know, the whatever they call it, evaporation process goes up there and then it comes down, and they had farmers, and they had shown the foam in between the rows of crops in Tennessee, way up there, you know. So I said, well, this is, you know, it's even coming up here now. So, and then all of a sudden, then you don't hear about it anymore. You tell people, they're like, oh, you're crazy, you know. It's all those things.
Let me pull together some of the things you've talked about, but thank you. Thank you so much. And we're going to get some more folks on deck here while I'm just tying some things that Captain Jack said together. He mentioned quite a bit. You guys come on up, please. So let's go all the way back to those landfills, okay? Oil waste is a hazardous waste. This is something that went into effect 2 weeks, 6 weeks before the Exxon Valdez oil spill. This is supposed to apply to all oil disasters. There are no hazardous waste facilities down here. So guess what? BP and Coast Guard, the federal government,
it got declassified. Well, that's great on paper, but that's not really, doesn't really work when it is a hazardous waste, and it does cause problems. So it did go into the landfills for a while, and people live right up against those landfills, and then I lost track of what happened. And as far as this bacteria in the Gulf goes, it was a grandmother that put me onto this. She said, do you suppose, people are getting these lesions that
Yeah, I
it
got
looks
it.
like their skin is opened up.
They won't go away either.
They won't go away.
Scars and.
Yeah, they go through your skin, through the fatty tissue, the subcutaneous, into the muscle tissue. Yeah, and then they scar. And the medical doctor said it was MRSA. This is not MRSA, okay? So this grandmother says to me, do you think, these, besides the oil, they got these bacteria, and what's our skin? Isn't our skin oil? Could it be eating our skin too? And it just sort of hit me like, did I miss something here? I mean, what are we doing? We're not supposed to be experimenting on people, right? That's what this whole Gulf disaster was. It was one giant experiment, and it didn't go so well for all of y'all down here.
I mean, it didn't.
Yeah.
And like I said, like he's talking about with the lesions and stuff on the skin, I've got them too. I mean, I'm 33 years old, been healthy as a horse all my life. All my life. I mean, I've been extremely healthy. Never been sick, not wanting to get sick, this and another. After the oil spill, I mean, deathly ill all the time. Directly afterwards, I've stayed sick, like I've been poisoned. Now I got lesions coming up on my arms. I'm scarred from head to toe. 33 freaking years old.
Could you say your name?
Anthony Ross.
Could you introduce yourself?
Anthony Ross. But it's ridiculous. Really, it's not even cool. It ain't no kind of. This is real. It's all it is to it, and it needs to be something done about it. I mean, I don't wish this on anybody. What I go through from day to day, I don't wish on nobody. I wish the CEO of BP could come his ass down here and live through this right here.
I have his lab results. It's an unspecified, unknown bacteria.
They don't know how to treat it. They don't know how to even test it. I got paperwork in my pocket where they sent off my blood work and it come back as a. They don't know how to test it. It's what is it?
It's a Bacillus.
It's a bacillus, but I have an idea of what it is.
Hang on, we got to do this with the mic. So, can you share with us what your name is and how you got exposed?
Yes, ma'am. I work with BP. During the oil cleanup, I work with Boo. I have my own boat. I'm a commercial fisherman shrimp. I run my dad's shrimp boat. And so I'm like he said, he makes his living on the water, and so do I. It's kind of the same kind of stuff. This is what we do around here. We make our living with the water. So, I mean, I've been exposed to the water a lot. And, I mean, I went out there, I seen the oil, we seen what it looked like, this and that, but we never did have to clean it up. If we find it radioed in, they tell us to come back in. That's all it was to it. Then next thing you know, you go back out there, it's gone. At night, I don't give a damn if you had a magic show. If somebody puts a damn bird in a cage and now all of a sudden it's gone, it's under the table. You know what I'm saying? That bird didn't go no damn where.
At night, they spray it. They sprayed up the radio at night. And they weren't even supposed to be inside with that stuff.
They had these crop dusters flying through.
Yeah.
We went out there, spotted a big old blob of oil, come back 3 days later, and there ain't nothing but a freaking tide line for 6 miles. I've never seen a 6-mile tide line as wide as my damn car ever in my life. And I've been on the water since I was this big.
And what did the environmentalist say that wrote on the?
Yeah, he said, well, even if it does come back a little bit over on the test, whatever, we ain't gonna really say nothing that way that y'all guys ain't out of job and this and that and the other. I rode the EPA around on the boat with me because I had a fast boat and the wind could blow on it. He had a guy there to make sure that he drank water. You know what I mean? Make sure he stayed hydrated. This is what this fella's job was. And I had shade on my boat and it was fast and he could have wind blowing on it. You know what I mean? He wanted to be in a Cadillac. But the rest of everybody else, he wasn't supposed to go over 8 knots because they didn't want the damn water getting on you. But I run this guy all around the bay at 50 miles an hour.
Or
you know what I mean?
because it scared the public.
It's ridiculous. You can't take and just cover up something or sink it and think it's just going to go away and it's not going to harm you. I mean, we're dying. I live with this stuff every day. I'm talking about it really freaking sucks, man. It sucks. I have beautiful skin.
Riki, this is what, when the storm's in the summer and it gets rough out there, that's the oil.
I know exactly what he's talking about.
That's what I wanted to bring up, is if this oil didn't go away, it's down in the water.
It's right past the second sandbar sitting on the bottom, and when it gets rough, it comes in.
So what I get phone calls all the time when there's a big storms. The bigger the storms, the more the wind, the more the water gets riled, the deeper it goes. And these plumes that are down low, they come up, and the next thing you know, there's tons, literally by the
Giant big
ton.
tar mats.
Tar
that they
mats
roll
rolling up
and
on the
they stop
beaches.
right on the sandbar.
Right.
They can't get up on the beach because they roll back out right to the sandbar.
So I just want to say to our audience that's far away, this is pretty much reminiscent for what happened when I came down here. I was only going to stay a month, May of 2010. I ended up staying through the 1 year anniversary, there I go, the 1 year memorial of the BP disaster. I stayed a full year. And what I did was I went back, community after community, and I just helped people understand what was going on, because we had been through this with the Exxon Valdez 21 years earlier. And the meetings would start at 7 and they were supposed to end at 9. And they would end sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning, okay? So what is really important to people here who have been through something like this, speaking as an Exxon Valdez survivor, is that you all listen to our stories. So just saying that because we're overtime right now, and I know there's some more people who have some stories, and I think we're game to keep listening here. So if you all are too, we really appreciate it. And I don't think these guys are done yet.
She might want to talk, but I'm all right.
Well, I just don't know where
I
to
just
go
wanna know
from
what we're
now.
gonna
I've
do.
been fighting for a long time to find out what's wrong with him. I've done research and research and research to figure out what's going on. I watch him suffer day in and day out. On top of that, how is he supposed to earn a living?
Not just that, y'all. I mean,
He can't
I've
work.
developed allergies. I've always been in hot rods and stuff. I used to go roll around in transmission fluid, change motors, you name it. I mean, I was big on fast cars and whatever, you know, that's just me. But now, I get any kind of oil, I mean, I break out in hives. I mean, I get sick. It's not even funny. If I go to work anywhere, if I get dirty on my arm, like dust, like grinding dust, anything, any kind of chemicals in it, it bothers the crap out of me. I have to go get in the shower. You know, you can't go get in the shower in the middle of the day at the shipyard. You can't do it. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You sit there and itch yourself to death waiting on 2:30 or 4 o'clock or whatever, waiting to get off? I mean, it's ridiculous. And I'm not complaining. I just want to know what we need to do to fix this. You know, if they can come out here and spray this crap all over our freaking water, now they need to figure out what we need to do to get it out of us. You know what I mean? The hell with this. This is wrong. Excuse my language, but
No,
it is.
Sorry, I didn't hear. It's been wrong since the Exxon Valdez, and I just want to point out there's a couple books back there that talk about chemical detox, talk about medical programs, and you might want to, I mean, these stories are what I've been dealing with now for 27 years from Exxon Valdez, all right? And the thing is, the longer this stuff stays in your body, it parks, it sequesters, it's like a little time bomb. It can come out any time, like what you're seeing. It all of a sudden just erupts out. You're fine one day, the next day you're not. And that's what happens. It comes out of the tissue where it's stored. So it's about detoxing. And what's that?
I developed SVT, supraventricular tachycardia. My heart rate would get up to about 260 a minute. And I've had my heart restarted about 10 times. I don't know where it comes from.
Well, it comes from oil chemical exposures, because one of the symptoms is cardiovascular problems. And I want to say that this is not, these oil chemical exposures, whether they're low, whether they're 24/7, whether they're acute, really fast, really hard, cardiovascular is another one of these symptoms. And I'm sorry. I mean, you know, this is what we need here are doctors. Well, this is what toxic trespass is trying to provide. We'll have a couple pages of symptoms. But what we need are the doctors with the specialty in occupational safety and environmental health. And there's many different sort of fields of specialty names for this now, but you've got to make sure your doctor has this basic training. Your specialty doctor. You've got to. And I forget which of the speakers now was talking about Kendra. Going away and coming back. She actually did go away for a large part of the summer of 2010. She came back when her kids had to go to school. And you know, you heard what she said, her kids are sick again. No, because you picked this up again, you've got to go get detoxed. And one of the big lessons for us with Exxon Valdez, when the fisheries collapsed, everything went down, we realized, you know what? Why are we waiting on Exxon to help us? We got to figure out how to do this ourselves. It's not going to be the federal government. It's not going to be the state. We got to band together, and we got to figure out what to do. That's where it's almost liberating when you realize you don't have to wait for anybody. You have the power within you to start figuring this out. And Oh, and that's what I was going to say. The oil can also
bring illnesses of remission, like cancers, or it can, so your doctors, this confuses a lot of people. You have two people standing side by side, and one is saying, I got dizziness, headache, nausea, flu-like symptoms, and that's because they have a cold. And you have another person standing here and saying, I have dizziness, nausea, flu-like symptoms, and that's because they've been exposed to oil. The way you tell the difference is the cold gets better. We're talking 6 years now. You're all still here. It's not better.
They've already ablated part of my heart off in September. I had ablation surgery. And then now my symptoms are coming back. I'm having heart trouble again. So I don't.
So one of the people that's covered in that book, I think you'd relate to, Ron Smith. He worked in the actual oil service industry, but he was out on boats a lot and stuff. And he got really, really, really sick. And early on, I was looking for detox centers. And back in 1989, there were not that many, all right? And one of them was and still is, in Texas, Environmental Health Clinic, Dallas. And I found him because that's where all the workers were, some of the workers had gone for detox. And Ron Smith said, I thought that doctor was nuts at first. He's an MD that's now doing detox. And he said, but now I think that doctor saved my life. And it's about educating you how to take care of yourself. This is about taking care of yourself. You got to do this now because your body isn't the same as it was before. And it's also about getting this stuff out of you, and it's also about giving yourself the nutritional supplements and stuff that will get your body back and better, and not continuing to mask it with round after round after round of antibiotics or something else.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but as the farther we move from the spill, these symptoms start now. You're going chronic. So now we're talking different. It's going to manifest all different ways as different illnesses. But basically, we're still talking get it out.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, it's crazy. That's why I kept expecting it just to get better. I mean, I was thinking, okay, it's just something. I've tried another cream or it takes more antibiotics. I've went through all kind of stuff, I've tried just about anything. I mean, just about everything. Any kind of cream you can think of, just about any kind of antibiotics I've took. I mean, this is 6 years now. I mean, I didn't have these coming up to about 2012, real bad, you know what I mean? But it started off and it's progressively getting worse, and it's turned into something that I just can't get rid of. Like he said, like this fellow say, you take antibiotics, you feel a little better. Today's kind of a good day. I usually can't, I usually don't think right, or, I'll be kind of, disoriented or kind of fogging it, feeling whatever. I just don't feel right. And
You feel better since you got some stuff from the feed store, right?
exactly, yeah. But I'm feeling a little better today.
Nitrogenous earth.
But
And it was cleaning them out.
yeah, so that's got me feeling a little better. But fact of the matter, I just didn't know what to do. When you go, like he said, when you go to the doctor, they give you antibiotics, they send you on your way. They say you got this, that, and the other, and you go on about your business, and then you feel a little better for just a little bit, and next thing you know, you're sick again, and then, you don't feel good, and you got these hives coming up on you, and it drives you nuts. It ain't worth a crap, really.
Did anybody ever tell you this stuff you were around was dangerous, the Corexit spray and all that?
No. They didn't tell us we need to wear respirators. They didn't tell us none of that. They said we didn't need to touch it with our hands. I did not know that it did not need to touch you at all, period, or you weren't supposed to be around the water. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you can't take oil and spray something on it and expect it to disappear. I've never seen it before. I want to buy some Corexit myself. I want to know if BP will sell me some. That's what I want to know. BP sell me some Corexit. I got some oil in my house. I want to see if it'll disappear for you.
And just
You know what I'm
like
saying?
you said, he would go out and it was black as his camera stand.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day go out and there was nothing.
Nothing.
They just
He
send
was
you home.
bringing the clean
Not a
stuff
damn thing.
out to the bad areas. And he had gloves in his boat, and a representative, I guess from BP, pulled on the side of his boat, said, take the gloves off or go home.
They told us if anybody wore gloves or respirator on our boat, they would be fired, and the boat would get fired.
Yes.
So, do what you gotta do.
Wear
but
blue
they
jeans
tell-
and don't go over 8 knots.
Yeah, that was it. And, they never even put an oil boom on my boat. I thought we were supposed to be cleaning up oil. Whenever I signed the contract to go to work with them, I thought we was gonna get some oil booms, some gloves, some respirators. We're going to get this stuff out of the water. That's exactly what I signed up for.
And
We're
that's
going to clean this stuff up.
Drug
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't sign up to go out there and ride around in a freaking boat all day and get intoxicated on some whatever the hell it is, or have this crap happen to me. If I was gonna have this crap happen to me, I'd at least want to get it out of the water so it don't happen to my kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't wanna leave it there.
And like you say, in external, certain things
Yes.
affect me more, just like the
Mhm.
people that have internal issues.
Yeah.
He was already told by the doctors, perfumes, certain
Yeah.
scents, it will just throw your whole body off. And so it's internal and external, and there's no answers. Like, I mean, he's 33, we're 53. That's scary coming from me, so imagine him. It's,
And watching it every day is.
And, yeah,
And I
it's-
love him with all my heart, and it kills me to sit and watch him suffer every single day, and then sit back and nobody's doing anything about it.
And
Before the
like I said,
oil
today's a
spill-
good day. Today's actually a good day. I can actually stand up here and talk to y'all, but there's bad days too.
Yeah, before the oil
Some
spill,
days are really
he
bad.
was a home builder for 27 years, self-employed, can build a home in no time. When I realized how bad he really was, this was after the hospital stay. And when you see your partner break, I wanted a storm door in the front of our house. It took him all of a day to put that one storm. When I saw him sit in the chair and break down, this is something he loved to do. He could go to your house and you say, okay, I want this whole wall of cabinets, I want to, you just told him what you wanted. With his hands, he could build this for you and loved doing it. After trying to hang a storm door, he's like, what am I going to do?
I can relate to that too.
He's a hot rod builder, he can.
And he has
hot rods.
classics.
I mean, anything that runs and has a motor, he'll fix it, he'll make it run as
Okay.
fast as it can go.
Two professions that I actually, this is how I made my living. Commercial fishing and building boats. You know, that's what I've always done. This is where we're at. You know what I mean? I've been a foreman at every job I've ever worked. I can build you a 200-foot ship or a freaking dinghy. It doesn't make a difference. And build it quick, just like you said. But now, I mean, got good days and bad days. Some days I'll be out there scratching my head wondering, how to build a bulkhead when I can usually build you a ship.
Right.
And it's crazy, really. You don't quite understand it, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
And like
lived
him, he said he was in a wheelchair for 2 years. And he said, I'm not going down like this.
Yeah.
When I tell you, he got up every day like he still had a job. Until today, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, he's up out the bed, shoes on, clothes on, fully clothed. We have a barn. He has 3 classic cars. I can't tell you how many times put my whole shop on Craigslist, tools, cars, everything. I can't do this. He'll go out and fool with him a little bit. He come out of the wheelchair. Okay, that's an awesome thing. But doing things you love to do and you know you can't do it no more, yeah, it keeps him going, but like he said, you get to a point you break. And I try to talk him out of it. Keep your stuff, just get away from it for a little while. He's like, I don't have the strength, I can't do it.
It's crazy. I never thought it, for real. I don't understand it. I don't understand how it can mess with you mentally. I guess it's because of your health or whatever. Maybe you got your health going that much or something, but I just don't understand how it could make you so foggy in your mind, to where you can't think like you normally would, I don't understand that.
Actually, that's called brain fog,
Yes, ma'am.
and it's trouble concentrating,
Yes, ma'am.
and it's forgetfulness.
Very
He
free.
actually never had to study. I mean, he made straight A's, never had to study for a test. He's just very intelligent. He's a very smart person. But it's really affected him in that way. I mean, mathematics is his strongest subject. But now sometimes he has to sit and, think.
I mean, there's days I had to count on my fingers. And I'm talking about, I went to my GED test on 11th grade level and made the highest scores long in math class and wake up ace of test. I had all the rest of the kids trying to cheat off me. It's just one of the things that come natural to me. And now I'm sitting here freaking talking about, what, and counting on my fingers, how in the hell does this happen? That ain't right. And like I said, there's no mistaking the fact that it has to be something to do with this oil. There is no question about it. I've got pictures and full family photos, and I'm talking about just on top of the world. I had everything going in my direction all the way up to 2010. After 2010, it's done nothing but to shoot straight off.
Everything done.
Everything. I'm talking about I lost my
Everything
family,
frozen time.
lost my job. I'm talking about everything. You name it, it has happened to me. And my health, all kind of stuff. There is no question about it. Nothing else has changed in my life other than the fact that I went out there and worked in amongst this bag of mold.
And I got a lot of other people in it, and we all heard these stories from down here. I think we got one other story on deck. Are you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all very, very much. I just have one thing to add here before we have our next speak out. and that is about this mental health thing. I almost feel like I have to apologize for it. Cordova, Alaska, where I lived for 28 years, was commercial fishing reel was very similar to Bayou Battery, all right? But that became the longest running case study on man-made disaster trauma, and is still to this day on this planet. And what the scientists found out, sociologist Dr. Steve Picou from Alabama, actually, and Dr. Dwayne Gill, what they found out was, yes, the oil spill caused a lot of trauma. But over time, that went down. But what went up and replaced it was the trauma of the litigation and filling out all these papers. And now here, what I'm hearing is the trauma is continuing on from the physical health problems. And the problem is when you have these financial stressors and these financial stressors and these, you think, you know, you're losing your mind when you're sick, like you're 33 and you're acting like an 83-year-old. So they start manifesting as substance abuse and drinking, excessive drinking and divorces and suicides. Okay, but how do you pull yourself out of this spiral? And that's the one thing that I think has not been talked about, is that it's called peer listening. And it's actually talking and sharing our story so that we all think that we're not crazy. We're hearing this story reflected. And then the next step is, what are we going to do about this? And when you start working for the greater good is when you start getting your self-esteem back again. You feel like you're pulling for something bigger than yourself. So the way out of it is actually to figure out as a collective group, how do we get out of this? What are our answers? And banning Corexit is certainly one of the things at the top of our list, banning these toxic products in oil spill response. And there's more about that on the alert webpage, alertproject.org. I think, I just want to check, are there any other people who want to speak tonight? Or is this our last speak out? I'm just, if you want. So, all right, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? And
Hi, my name is Francis. My husband was one of the boats I've seen on all rigs. We're down 2.5 years later, he died. And fine man, wasn't sick, never sick. Now, I got 2 kids, I was working for food. Now they both cancer. 29, 33 years old. And now they died with cancer. And they was working for food.
Go ahead. You do a great job.
And ain't nobody can say nothing. I mean, nobody don't know nothing. Nothing. He's a captain right there. That's another one of my husband's friends working all over. But he was one of them that was hanging on the rig. And he said he opened the side door. When he opened that side door, nothing to do his knees.
When did he pass away?
So he passed away November the 8th, 2013.
this is your husband?
And you have a 32-year-old son.
33-year-old son. He got leukemia. I got a 29-year-old daughter. She got cancer. And both work for food.
Blood disorders are one of the 4 common symptoms of these oil spill exposures. And we heard a lot about the coughing up the blood and throwing up the blood and the blood coming out the ears, and leukemia is another blood disorder.
Right.
So this is not so far-fetched here at all. And in fact, I meant to mention this earlier, is that other countries like South Korea have done amazing studies. They have gone to bat for their population who've gotten sickened by oil disasters. South Korea has cohorts of like 10,000 people. And they have followed women who were pregnant. They have followed the children who were born. And they have followed the people who were just residents living close by these oil disasters. And what they found is they measured it. Years of living with disabilities. That's what it's called. There's bodies of burden of disease. That's what I'm afraid you're all living with and dying from down here. And now your son?
And daughter.
And daughter.
And they both worked VU. And you did not.
No.
Man, I don't even know what to say. I'm just really sorry. Thank you for sharing your story. I know a lot of people down here who are sick and have paid for what they thought was health care and treatment, and they have paid way more than they earned on this program, on the VU program, Vessels of Opportunity program. And I know with Exxon Valdez, few people have that exact same story. It's not like down here, but we're talking, a lot of people, when I did that survey, said, if I had to do this over again, they didn't tell me this was going to happen. I would have chosen no, had they told me that. But that's not what they say. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we'd like, yeah.
Talk to me then. Hi, I'm the wife of a chemically exposed husband. My husband didn't get exposed the normal way. He was a net maker, and it came in on the nets. And it made him very, very sick. He like died. When I mean sick, I mean he was throwing up blood. Blood was coming out his rectum. He wasn't telling me. I found it. I knew that he laid on my couch and did this. And I knew he was sick. We didn't know why. I had to go and search. Thank God for people here. My husband is alive today. Seriously, he's not home, but he's alive. He went down to like 150 pounds. He's 6'3". Do you know what it's like to watch your husband, your best friend? Like she said earlier, you're together all the time. He's your best friend. My children were 5. I took my son to the doctor all the time. He kept running fevers. I couldn't touch my son. I couldn't touch my husband. I take him to the doctor. They know what's wrong with him. Finally, thank God, we got him treatment. I left here, thanks to you and Lori. Remember you told me to leave? I took him, I left. When I left, his skin was peeling off his body. He smelled like rotten fish. It took us 6 weeks in the Great Smoky Mountains to heal him. I came back, sick all over again. We no longer have a business. His straw business is gone because I can't risk his life for money. BP did this. They allowed a multinational corporation to poison us. My husband, your families. It ain't getting any better. I'm from Mississippi. You think they gonna fix this mess? We have a torment, they said, the size of Rhode Island around the oil well. Where do you think that's going to come when we get a storm? You think that these people care? I could not believe this when I looked at the EPA guy and I said, what is the EPA for? It's the Environmental Protection Agency. They're supposed to be protecting us. They didn't protect anything. I can say that my husband is better now. He's not here. He's gone on the road, but he's alive. I don't know what's going to happen. My children are 5 and 16. They toxified my entire family. You know what their excuse was? We didn't have profit and loss statements. They're not helping us. My husband wouldn't go to the doctor because he was afraid of medical bills. Thank God for people like Riki and for the care that the community gave us, not the doctors.
Thank you, Laura. I know there's another person who might have something to say. You game? We don't want to push you on the spot. This is a big deal here to be sharing stories. If you don't want to, it's okay. If you want to come up. I just want to share another story about commercial fishing. And I commercial fished for 10 years. Tiltex on Valdez put me out of business. I'm giving you time to warm up here, okay?
And is most of it a little bit.
Well, just
but I worked in Alaska in the Dutch Harbor in Maine. During the summertime going kayak fishing and Dutch Harbor brown pig grass. But I'm talking Dawsville for BP. I was on the scene. I can't bring the responders out to the responder boats, and you can smell it so bad out there in the brown. like our weights and stuff on the crew boat, because I'm talking like a 100-ton mast, and I'm talking about run supply boats offshore. And I'm talking sometimes I use the bathroom and I'm bleeding it all while I'm on the boat, and sometimes I puke up blood. But I went to Ashland Hospital, got took off a boat in New Orleans. I was working out of Venice, and I'm talking they brought me in. Well, I'm talking I was working out of Grand Isle, but they brought me into Venice, and then I rode the ambulance from the dock. And then they told me I had a liver problem, but I don't know if the doctors told the truth. They supposed to be there checking on the man, the MRI, all the stuff, all the checks. All they said I had a liver problem.
That's probably what the doctors do to check for, but what your liver is one of the organs that is breaking down or trying to break down these toxic chemicals, and your liver can get pretty much overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So,
like I'm talking, my enzymes was like 1,200 and 800, my lower and upper. They say I have 5 days to live, but that's been 2 years ago. That was in January of 2014 after the spill.
this was in 2014
Yeah.
that you were told all this?
At Ashland Hospital.
So this is what I mean when I say these pollutants are drawn into your body and they're stored, they're sequestered. That's what I mean. And they keep, basically I've heard from people who are grandparents and they feel great. And then they go play with their grandkid and they get physically exerted, and the next thing you know, they're pulling this stuff back into their system again.
I'm from Cody, Alabama. I was born and raised down here. But my kids was going out there with the cleanup stuff. He was young, like going walking to the beach and all that. So, I mean, I worry about my kids and all that. I know my health's bad. But, you gotta go on.
Well, okay, we got to go on, but let's try to get a plan, and that's why I've been coming back every year since the BP disaster, because I know it's not over. It is not over.
If they get a big enough hurricane out there, it's gonna come back up and wash on land and everything.
Well, that's when they'll evacuate all of it and say, we can't.
Yeah, for now, who could pay? Who could afford to evacuate the entire Gulf Coast, right?
And also what's bad, I know the federal government, I'm talking about when I was handing Johnny Grams, I had the half swapper, like you plug drums and cleanups and stuff. You ain't supposed to dump no dispersants on all. That's against the law. That's a $25,000 fine just if you do it. But they allowed I'm talking about BP to do it.
Right, and this is one of the policies that the two scientists are so adamantly opposed, is that this is nuts. Yeah. This is nuts, that we're putting a toxin on top of a toxin and expecting it to be better. Yeah. And guess what? The federal government does not, you should read their definition of sink. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So in the federal government's mind, the dispersant does not sink the oil.
And we see sheens offshore all the time, and it's not coming from somebody pumping their bills. It's still all against it on top of the water. And they got some platforms, they'll change valves, and the next morning they wake up with a 5-mile crude oil slip.
And that's a good point, is that it's not just one disaster down here. Yeah. It's like chronic everyday input into the Gulf and into the air that we're all breathing. So one of the things, take what we started with with Lori Bosarge, talking about getting away, feeling better. You're being poisoned every day down here, all right? Every day you should be doing some sort of detox regime. Whether it's Epsom salt bath, for God's sakes. But really, for the heavy exposures that we've had, we need to find the qualified healthcare providers and get you all to them. So, anything more to share? I mean, that's...
I appreciate for letting me speak.
You bet. Thank you. Lori, I think, why don't you come up here, stand with me? I think, is there anybody else who wants to, are we wrapping? I think we might be wrapping. I was going to get, okay, I think we'll just stick with this. This is the original MCs who were supposed to be the MCs. But I know, I don't want you to overdo it. So, but I just want to thank everybody for coming and speak out and thank the film producers for coming back again and again and getting this very important story out, The Rising. It should be out this fall. And this is going to be the first film that really drills down on these oil sick people and why we need to focus on diagnosing and treating people for chemical exposures, oil chemical exposures. So thank you to the film crew.
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank everybody, the film crew, Riki, Tricia, folks have come from all over the country to be here tonight and to listen to our stories and to listen to what's going on right here in the bayou. And it's been live streamed, so there's been people all over that knows what's going on. And I want to let you know that we'll continue to hold events here to make sure we come together and we discuss the health issues. Anytime we get updates on anything, we'll let you know. I think it's important, as I hear these people talk, that they do want to share. It's people that would never get up in front of a microphone, that would never stand up in front of a camera and speak. And these folks are doing it because you know what? After all this time, these fishermen here, I'm not a fisherman, but I have a heart for the fishermen because that's what this community is. This is born and bred 5, 6 generations of fishermen. And to know that there's been so many in the rest of the nation that think that these families, that they think they're uneducated and they don't know how to do anything. But yet, these people are the hardest working class people I've ever known. I did not grow up here. I grew up in Atlanta, a big city. So when I came down here, my heart was for this beautiful community. And the fishermen here, and in the bayou, and in this coast, they work harder than anybody else I've ever known. And these people fish for their food, they fish for their supper. And I remember when I moved down here 16 years ago, I could go out there and watch people cast nets and pull up ground mullet, cast nets and pull up ground mullet. When it was low tide and soft shell crab was out there, you'd see the lights all in Portisville Bay right here. I thought I would see that for the rest of my life. I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, is watching. You just see these lights and water wouldn't be but this deep. And none of that's happened since then. These people are hungry. These people are tired. And these people are sick. And they deserve, like I've said before, we're not the rest of the nation's enemy. We're U.S. citizens. And we're not killers, not murderers. We don't abuse our families. But yet, all of these agencies, including BP and all of the government agencies, allowed them to come down here and just poison us. Just spray, and they still do. And there are so many that are sick. So I appreciate everybody here. I know every time there's a gathering, there's somebody else that shares a story or says, wow, I didn't realize this was going on. So I appreciate y'all coming. It's been a rough week for me because I was so looking forward to this, and everybody's worked so hard and just let me rest, and we'll continue to fight.
And what this is about is changing the story. That's what this evening is about. By sharing these stories, we change the story. When we change the story, we change the end game. We change the outcome. So that is why it's been so important to have you all here tonight. And I remember Exxon Valdez, we didn't want to speak up out either. It was scary. But speaking up and speaking out is how we change the end game. So we gotta keep doing this. All right. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's called the Rise. All right, man. Good to see you. Early though, five. I'll figure it out. I'll say thank you. I'll take it. I mean, I know where it is. Oh, tomorrow morning. I thought you were talking about tomorrow morning. Friday. Getting to the bus. Okay, that's what it is. You see what I'm You see my BP crab oil?
That's you. Ooh, I love it. Let me look at it closer. This is yours. I want to see it.
How do you shut the feet off?
What?
How do we shut the feet off?
Stop there.
Yes.